that you need to come in for?
So Dan Krasnecki, Archery Chairman, Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. So nothing has changed. Once again, this year, we will be hosting the R100 3D archery shoot.
Yeah.
I'd just like to put my face in front of you at least once a year to make sure there's no issues. No, as far as I know, there hasn't been anything that anyone has talked about. So we would continue to like to use the property that abuts Hamilton on the north side.
Yep.
If we may. We will continue to clear the trails that we've cleared probably for the last 4 years, and the shoot lanes, as we call them, as we, as the undergrowth continues to grow, especially up on the hill up by what we call Third Pond. That is, grows like weeds up there. So again, I'm just looking for permission. I've sent an email to Ed Hood at Opacum, because usually he would send me a contract such that we would sign off on him and abide by that contract. Once I do that, I'll send Becky that. We will add the town of Sturbridge to our insurance rider to make sure that you're covered for those 3 days, as we do with Reinhardt, as they're covered with our insurance policy. The one thing that I do want to ask about, I think, is, so last year and in the fall, we noticed the gypsy moth caterpillars had done a job on our property for all the oak trees. On the right-hand side of what we call the Third Pond and our campground, there were a bunch of them there that really got hit. I want to be able to, if some have fallen, I want to be able to saw them just to make clear lanes and so forth. Obviously, we won't take anything down. I just want to make sure that we can clear it and that you understand if we saw some stuff, that we'll just put it aside or take care of it appropriately, however you see fit. The other thing I worry about is we kind of tongue-in-cheek refer to them as widow makers. Anything that's hanging up top, we will do our best to get those down just for, in the safety of the people that be walking the properties. I'm not sure how we would like to handle that. If you would like me to send a picture to maybe Becky and make sure that it's okay. I just don't want to get to a point where you never told us, and I just want to keep it all on the up and up and make sure you know what we're doing. I don't plan on cutting anything. I haven't been up there yet this year. I just don't know what's in store since the snow and the big windstorm that we've had.
Well, I guess I would say if you're gonna do any hanging, cutting any of the hanging, that we would get Becky involved.
Okay,
To just take a look at it before you do,
okay.
you know.
Yeah, and we have
We don't want any risk, but on the other hand, we like.
I know I don't want to, I'm not looking to clear cut, yes, true.
I think that's a crazy idea.
What?
I would much rather not have Becky go out and look at a potential widowmaker, because that could make her.
looking at them all the time.
Come on. I don't think that's the right.
Thanks.
What are you doing to us, Dan?
I tell you what, we pay the big bucks.
No, Dan, we have a tree removal permit application. There's no fee or public hearing or anything, and that's how people can request a takedown.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, trees like that. So we can, if you see something, just let me know.
I'll
We
let
can
you know, okay, so
figure
I'll
that
work with
out
you on that,
yeah,
and then that way
keep
we're
that
good.
separate.
Okay,
Yep.
other than that, it should be fairly simple and straightforward as it has been for the last 4 or 5 years.
There is a positive note that should be added, though. About 3 weeks after these guys held their event, the Trails Committee had a cleanup event on the Plimpton property. And a couple of comments came back after they met at our regular Trails Committee meeting and indicated that someone had been out there doing their work for them.
Oh, good,
On the
okay.
Plimpton property, it was better than it had been when they had gone out and said, well, we gotta send a crew out and do some cleanup. So, thank you for that.
Our pleasure. Thank you for letting us continue to use the properties.
Quick question, if the wind knocks a tree down, why do we have to approve?
He's talking about hangers.
I'm talking about hangers. Those are the ones I
Oh, about
really
hangers,
worry.
I know 3 people that were killed by,
I
have widows, so yeah, be careful.
Yep.
All in favor? All right, no problem. Thanks
Okay,
for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Dan, I'll send you another letter like we did
perfect.
last year with all that no motor vehicle off trails,
Yep.
et cetera, the same conditions, so.
Perfect.
Okay.
You saw, before you go, he asked about getting approval from Opacum. I thought for the letter permits, we didn't need to.
Didn't you two?
Don't
Well, this
need
is
to.
a special use permit, but I think that Opacum does ask for that as well.
Okay,
as a
And he
CR
feels
holder.
better about doing it for his group.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just,
yeah, that's fine.
they've been good. They've we work together, so I just keep Ed in the loop on this.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
All right, Buddy, you're up.
So Buddy's here to talk about the work that was done at 96 and 98 Gladding Lane, where there was like a catch basin install. There was an open permit for a septic replacement that Buddy was doing, and at that time, there was some catch basin work. So he just wants to explain what that was done out there. What we had asked the property owner after we had gone out there was to do like an after-the-fact filing for that. So Buddy wanted to kind of give you an explanation of the work that was done as part of that.
What happened is we put in a septic system for Mrs. Paquin, and after we finished grading and seeding the septic system, the next day it rained, and I was down at the bottom of where the septic system was, and there was a big puddle of water there where it had collected. So I went over and looked at it. It was an old rubble stone catch basin there, or head wall, and the pipe was blocked up with sand. So I uncovered the pipe, cleaned the sand out of there, and I said, I gotta fix this thing because it's gonna happen again. So I installed a catch basin.
Was it all on her property?
It's not on her property, it's in the next door neighbor's property. They knew that I did it, but they didn't, I told them I was gonna do it, and they said, yeah, if that'll help the situation, go ahead. So I installed a catch basin, and the pipe hasn't blocked up since, so. And I guess I failed to get a permit, but I figured I was fixing it, so.
Buddy, what does it require to keep that basin open?
It stays open right now because the water has to rise, doesn't wash the sand in, you know? So if we looked at it probably once every couple of years and see if there was any sand in there, that would be all you'd had to do. That pipe has been there for years and years.
A lot of years. That's why
Yeah.
we're looking for a history lesson.
Yeah. So whatever you want me to do.
I say nothing.
Oh, absolutely nothing.
Buddy, comment?
Something that maybe we could put in the file that shows that that's been repaired, and like an after-the-fact something easy, and a $10,000 fine.
What do you think? Steve's been doing such a good job when he.
No, I've been working for DEP for too long.
It's only money anyway. Yeah.
It can be fixed with money. No, something for the record, I'll get ahead of Ed on that, or Dave on that one. No, I'm good with,
From Buddy, you want him to send her a note? What do you want?
yeah, I mean, can you just send something to us, that
Yeah,
a plan
sure.
or something?
Yeah, I'll send Becky a note explaining what happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we have something in the file.
sure.
Maybe if there is maintenance that is required, a commitment from the property owner, that they'll do that maintenance every inspection and check it every couple of years, and maybe clean out any sediment in there if that's,
Yeah.
if it's
yeah, we can
necessary.
do that. I know that you've sent letters to the property owner, and I feel responsible for it, because, I just fixed it.
Of course, one of the things that happens, Buddy, is that they keep selling the property.
Yeah,
So with the turnover, the history dies.
oh, yeah.
So that's why we have to check with the guy that actually did the work.
Yeah. All right, I'll have my secretary send you a note.
All right, everybody in favor?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's good.
Yep. Fine, Buddy, thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen does a much better job. He's been coming in a lot lately.
Don't you dare tell him that.
But he's not better looking.
One out of two.
Thank you.
There.
Thank you. All right, Carol, you're up.
Oh.
I'd like to take a 1 hour break if I could, Mr.
She's gonna read this report, right?
We're very entertained.
You haven't memorized?
It's a beautiful report.
Please introduce yourselves and.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Carol Goodwin, Chairman of the Open Space Committee, and this is Lisa Gelfin, one of our members. Lynn Peterson couldn't make it tonight, so we're here to present the Open Space and Recreation Plan, and thank you for having us. First, we on the Open Space Committee want to thank the Conservation Committee and the conservation agents, past and present, for their support and technical assistance on open space acquisitions and contributing to this planning process. Since the last plan, and believe it or not, I was here 5 years ago, almost to the date, presenting our past plan. Since the last plan, we accomplished securing the conservation restrictions for all our open space properties. Also, the Conservation Commission is constantly working with the Trail Committee on our parcels. We just can't thank you guys enough. You are so underappreciated, all of you. You work consistently for this town, and no one even knows about it. Quoting from the introduction of the plan, we are a community with a healthy mix of housing, commercial, and industrial development, and preserved open space. This plan gives us a roadmap to acquiring critical open space lands to protect our groundwater resources, habitat areas, and the quality of life in the town of Sturbridge. Sturbridge has many water resources to be protected. Wetlands, wetland resource areas, ponds, lakes, rivers, vernal pools, wetland complexes, perched small ponds, and perennial and intermittent streams. We have 2 wetland resource maps on page 44 and 45 of the plan, and a vernal pool map on page 49. Also, on page 52 is the habitat protection map, prepared by the Mass Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program, and the Nature Conservancy. In some way or other, all this comes under the Conservation Committee's charge. 88% of our residents who completed the Open Space and Recreation Survey responded that it was important to preserve our open space to protect our water resources and conservation needs. We applaud you for your efforts to address these issues. Going forward, the Open Space and Recreation Plan suggests a 7-year action plan involving the various boards. Lisa and I will address some of these goals. Now it's Lisa, and this is Lisa.
The 7-year action plan starts on page 175, and there are just a few items that we would like to highlight this evening. These are actions that fall under the purview of the CONCOM and the conservation agent. First, on page 176, this is under goal number 1. Goal number 1 is to continue to develop, maintain, and improve public access to water resources. Specifically on page 176, goal 1B, improve public access to Sturbridge water bodies for fishing, boating, and swimming. The Open Space Committee is eager to work with the CONCOM and the conservation agent to move forward with reopening Streeter Point Beach as a town beach through a lease agreement with the Army Corps that could involve a pay-for-access system. The economic benefits to local residents and to tourists are obvious. We have discussed this goal with the Board of Selectmen, and they seemed quite receptive. We also ask that the CONCOM put it on your agenda and work with the state and responsible town parties to arrange public access to that beach. Carol, do you want to continue?
Also on page 176, under 1B, one of the objectives is to provide access to the Quinebaug River Trail from the Commercial Tourist District, Route 20. The Conservation Committee's input would be necessary about crossing the river, ensuring the protection of its banks during the construction of a bridge. This project would enhance the tourist district and economy while increasing access to the trails. I feel this is really an important endeavor for our community, and I want it to happen before I die. And so we've been talking about this for a long time, and now that the Trails Committee is working on the Rivers Trails, I think it's, we spoke to the selectmen too about this, and I would really like, I think it would be a wonderful project for the town to undertake. And we can pay for it either through community preservation funds or even betterment, because it is a part of the economic activity for the tourist area. Would enable people to walk the river trail. Then I would love 2 bridges and loop around and get an ice cream, go out to lunch, all that. So I think it's a really great project, and I really hope we get support. And also, another thing under 1B is the development of 9 Holland Road as a mixed-use site, creating viewing areas and a river trail along the property. Again, I know this is being worked on. I know a development has come forward, but we haven't heard. It's been pretty quiet lately, and I'm just hoping that something creative that will enhance our viewing of the river and the river quality and everything, just upgrade it all. It'd be wonderful, because it's a special site. It's at one of the gateways of Sturbridge. Then this isn't in the plan. Well, it means better communication with the different committees, with the Lake Committee. I forgot what they call it, but anyway. And this was something I thought we would like the town to consider, is a lake overlay bylaw to protect the overdevelopment of the backlands of some lakes like Big Alum. This would have to be done through the planning board process, but could protect the water quality of the downgrade lakes. And I think that is something that you could communicate, if you so choose, to the planning board, and it would make your job easier, because then you wouldn't have to deal with the runoff, the pollutants, et cetera, if those backlands are overdeveloped, particularly where you have basins for some of these lakes. Now, which one is that?
Okay, on page 177, goal number 2, enhance groundwater protection efforts, which Carol has referred to, specifically the last 2 boxes under the purview of the conservation agent and the Conservation Commission. The goal under Objective 2A, continue to identify priority preservation areas around town water supply wells and within groundwater protection districts, and continue to protect the existing district. The Open Space Committee very much appreciates that the CONCOM continues to ensure compliance with the groundwater protection bylaws, and as the plan indicates, that you continue to discourage the use of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and other contaminants, particularly in the groundwater protection district and near-surface water bodies. I would just quickly refer to my own experience as a resident of McGilpin Road, which if you followed the contamination catastrophe in recent years, my house had 4 times acceptable level of lead in our water. The Open Space Committee very much appreciates your hard work on this issue, and we wish that the state had stricter regulations for sites such as the Southbridge dump, which, as we all know, has caused countless problems for our wells on McGilpin and in other areas in town. Next, on page 183, under goal number 4, which is increase the supply of critical open space and recreation lands in the town. Specifically, Objective 4A, evaluate opportunities for open space acquisition by fee, donation, or easement in perpetuity. Emphasis shall be placed on parcels that create green corridors, protect water supplies, and natural, cultural, and historic resources, and provide access to and enhance recreational resources. Under this objective, one crucial goal is to identify areas that would protect wildlife corridors. Carol mentioned earlier, and I would refer you again to page 52. I don't know that you had a chance before, but there is a habitat protection map. It's map 9 on page 52 of the plan. And this map shows the protected wildlife habitats in the town, including those that provide crucial protection of rare species, and it also shows the town's critical natural landscapes. We all know that protecting core habitats is essential to maintaining biodiversity and intact ecosystems. Several endangered and threatened species have been identified in Sturbridge. While habitat protection is in some cases affected by natural barriers such as rivers, in other instances it is threatened by human dangers, including development and the fragile temporary status of chapter lands. The Open Space Committee therefore asks the Concom, we encourage you to continue to identify priority areas worthy of permanent protection so that wildlife diversity can be secured. Just going back to goal number 4A, again, Carol mentioned earlier the importance of identifying and protecting vernal pools. On page 49, there's another map, it's map 8, which shows the certified and potential vernal pools in Sturbridge. These pools, as we know, provide essential habitat for certain amphibian and invertebrate species. The pools constitute critical habitat sites since they maintain freshwater aquatic diversity, and they too need to be protected.
And I'm just going to flip back, again, we have you flipping through these books, but on page 179 under goal 3A, it says for the open space to partner with the Trails Committee and the Conservation Committee to support land acquisition and easements that help advance trail construction and connectivity. Now, an example of this advocating would be for the Blanchard property along the Riverland, the island there that we can't ever seem, the Hawaiian people we can't seem to be contacting with. But anyway, we mentioned this again to the selectmen. I'm hoping they'll take some action on this, I mean aggressive action, because we've been talking about this for years and years and years. And it will enhance, it would both, it'd make it a better trail along the river to get that property. And the Open Space Committee always welcomes your input on the prioritization of parcels. Like Lisa said, not only to protect habitat and water resources, but also the heritage landscapes on map 58. We have a lot of maps. It tells the story. They tell a story at a glance, so they're great. And finally, again, another map on page 147. We have the open space map. It's a big one, which relates to different categories of preservation and the density of development in our neighborhoods at a glance. There isn't a board in our community that recognizes the value of our natural resources more than the Conservation Committee. You're always out in the field and addressing concerns. We look forward to more interaction between the boards of our community for help with the prioritization of open space parcels. And we just want a big thank you to you all for the work you do. Thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, we really appreciate it. Also, again, we're begging for people to join the Open Space Committee. We meet usually about once a month, we really need young people to help us all out. It's your town, and you know, we feel we'd love to have the contributions and the thoughts and the ideas.
We only have one young person on the board.
I know.
Our token
I'm
young
talking
person.
Becky too. Becky knows a lot of young people. Yeah. And then there's always Ashley. She's kicking her out.
She doesn't have anything to do.
So if you have any questions or comments, we'd appreciate anything.
Nice job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. Thank you.
We have to thank Jean Bouban
And
for,
Rebecca.
for the
They-
incredible work that they do.
They work so hard on it, and I know, and it's true, that all the conservation agents, I don't know if Becky, you interacted some with them too, I'm sure, but Glenn did too, a lot. He was very helpful, and even when we tried to get the Barrett property, Glenn was a huge help. He made great advocacy for that parcel, and we did well with, in the past 5 years, the Plimpton property. You know, the Trails Committee has been tremendous. Everything we've been able to achieve has been, it's really coming to fruition now because of the Trails Committee. They're honestly, people are getting it. They're understanding it all and the value of open space. It makes for a sense of community, and it's a nicer place to live, I think.
Is the, I have a quick question. Isn't
You
the-
don't know who should be.
Following the protocol, chairman down there. The Blanchard property, that's the woman that lives in Hawaii
Yes.
that they just simply cannot
Can't reach her.
get an answer. I mean, we thought Bob Briere was gonna do it because.
My time, Eddie tried, you know, and I think the town administrators have reached out to them. I don't know if we can take it by eminent domain or whatever, but I know it would make for a much better trail, right, Dave, if we could get that property. And
It's valued at very small value.
Yeah, it's that little.
it's an island.
Right.
Yeah.
What island does she live on?
Oh, I don't know, but I know, I think it's her estate. I think it's an estate, truthfully. I don't know if it's a person now, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's a lawyer, I don't know. We haven't never gotten an answer. I mean, I don't know how you get to someone.
Oh.
I'm gonna, when the new town administrator, I left Ted alone, but I'm gonna go and, you know, harass them.
He will
Find
be
it.
made very aware of it because most of the season coming up is planned for work on the Riverlands.
Yeah,
And one of the things that we're really looking at is that plan that has been developed by the planning department with one of their subcommittees to get a bridge or a pair of bridges erected so that you can go from the Riverlands directly to Route 20.
yeah, that's what I was
That's
talking about.
exactly-
That's part of the commercial tourist revitalization plan. And, I mean, we advocated for that at those meetings, and it's, I think, it just would be, really a boom. It would give us something, you know, I remember when before we got the Rivers Land, the comment was made at the, town meeting where we voted for it, that these rivers, bring a community together. They can be an area, like, one resident mentioned how the river, the lake up in Burlington, Vermont, and the walk along there, it just was such a benefit to the whole community, you know, people, kids, all ages enjoy those things, so. And we have it right there. It's just right next to Route 20, and we just don't see it enough, you know? Half the town doesn't even know, you know, it exists, really, so. Hopefully, we'll get there. But I really believe, any thoughts, any help that we can have and prioritize, even little parcels that would, you know, for connectivity, or you guys deal with, you know, endangered species, you know, with your dealings with other developments. And so it's really, it'd be interesting, you know more than we do. You are out there. So anything you can say, just call us, come to, you know, you don't even, you know, you can send us a memo or something, then we'll address it at the meeting, or we can come to your meeting, or whatever. We really would love to help.
Is there a next step to, I mean, we've been talking about that bridge for 30 years.
I think we have to push, I don't know, I don't know who, would it go through the selectmen, do you think?
Our previous town
Trails?
administrator was trying to make a routine of contacting the owners of the Blanchard property. It's not 300% critical in order to be able to complete the work.
No, I know.
But it's more ideal because most of the public has already forgotten the fact that we already have the bridge built. We
Right.
got the bridge at the time of the big dig out of Boston, and one of the contractors picked it up and brought it to a storage area.
Oh,
Now, how long is it gonna be able to be kept in storage before we really have to make some significant repairs on it? It's exactly like the Ed Calcutt Bridge.
which is awesome, yeah.
The Ed Calcutt Bridge came from exactly the same place.
Really a nice
A
bridge.
bridge that's just sitting,
I didn't know
I think
that.
we got two of them, right? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
so, yeah.
We have both of the required parts to make this access possible. We're missing two little details,
so we just need some,
but they're
We need the
hanging it up.
place to put it.
Right, Dave, has anyone has cited a location? Because that could be a start. Obviously, we have to look for town property, and where environmentally it might make the most
Again, that would be,
sense.
and be
So that's
really,
something that
exactly,
we
and I
can
feel like
think
that's your
about, but if-
purview, yes.
Right,
Okay,
And-
but it's critical to point out that the Conservation Commission has care, custody, and control of all of the other open space parcels in town.
Except for the
Riverlands.
Riverlands, yeah.
And for 5 years, we could not do work on the not we, but the Trails Committee could not do work on the Riverlands because it was being held up. We were being told, do not open
I
that
know.
property.
Yeah, no, I
Now it's
understand all
open.
that, yes.
So now we can start working on it and give the people more access to it. 50 or 60% of the trails are accessible right now. DPW has already replaced the 36-inch culvert that blew out in the storm of 2012. That's all taken care of. The roadway is already made over that. So it's accessible without any difficulty. Now we just have to make it a little bit better.
Well, I will definitely pursue advocating for it with the new town selectmen and speak to the selectmen, so, town administrator, yeah, and speak to the selectmen. So I think where they have care and custody of the Riverlands, and I think, but I think we need a site with a crossing occur, and that, I don't know.
Well, as soon as we get dry weather, we should take a site visit up the river and take a look at the possible sites that are there as a committee.
And if we have to purchase some land or something, you know,
Yeah, we'd have to
there's
buy
a
a
number
little
of places
tile.
that were mentioned, so. So that's about it.
I just wanted to add that the Blanchard property, that was something that Leon had on his to-do list. It didn't get done. He did give me a copy of all of his records to work on with the next town administrator, so I know he's left that for the next person. So it will be something that should be getting addressed in the near future, hopefully.
And I think they also put the Streeter Beach access on the to-do list too, which would be really great for the community because we need it. There's nowhere really other than Cedar Street to swim.
When
And
did we quit using Streeter Road Beach? I mean, my kids,
Mass took it, they closed it down. It was owned by the state and they closed the facility. Well, probably 10 years ago now. I mean, you know, we went there all the time.
oh,
It
my
was
kids
great.
loved that.
Yeah.
Donna would take them down there. That'd be great to get that back.
And I was just talking, actually to my daughter today, and we were discussing how it's like a safer beach than even Cedar Street, because Cedar Street, they have all the activities, and like during the week, even the lifeguards, you don't even know whose kid it is, you know, at least at Streeter, they go with families,
Correct,
and,
yeah.
you know, it's like more,
Very gradual, too.
yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great.
contained, you know, and the
It-
water quality is better too, it's always moving,
Yeah, it's not in a cove.
right.
It's nice too, because it's an existing site with infrastructure already there, so it wouldn't have probably a big impact to maybe reopen that.
So I think it'd be really,
wouldn't-
and the
Yeah.
community
Very
wants
little.
it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And then, of course, in the open space plan, this addressed a lot of the recreation issues that don't really, aren't your purview, but that was a lot of what was addressed in here too. But there was a lot of support for passive recreation and the trails, a lot, you know. And of course, they always want fields, but they have to go vote if they want them.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening
Thank
to
you.
us. Read the
I made
report.
notes, so I'll go back through everything, and there's a couple of things that we kind of have been working on a little bit too, so
Oh, great,
can-
Becky. Well,
maybe I'll send you an email with like an update for some of those things.
great.
Okay.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you.
In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area, in accordance with Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. These items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
So, 6:15, we have a request for determination of applicability for 30 Lad Road, which is not coming in.
Correct, they've asked for another continuation for a month out, and the reason being is they want to include with their request for determination of applicability that they gave us their forest cutting plan. They're working on, they have a draft management plan submitted, and they will be then, based off of feedback from the state on that, they then want to submit that to us as well. So they've asked for another continuation. I did inform them because it is multiple properties, and the request for determination of applicability that we received was for only one of the properties, that depending on how the scope of their project has changed, they may need to re-notify abutters and legal ad, et cetera. So we'll see when that is done with what comes in.
So that would be, what meeting would that be? That'd be
April
in a month?
Yes, April 2nd, yep.
That's a meeting
At
I will not be
6:15.
attending.
Do we need to vote on the continuation?
Yep, we do. You will not be attending.
No, I announced it earlier that I won't be there April 2nd.
All in favor of allowing the continuation? Okay. So we are already up to 6:30. Notice of intent, DEP number 300, TBD,
Correct, we do not have a DEP file number yet.
for 268 Big Allen. Demolition of existing house, construction of a new single-family house, and associated driveway grading, represented by Green Hill Engineering.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening. Okay.
Just want to note that Green Hill Engineering has already submitted the legal ad and the butter notification proof, as well as they've given us an affidavit of proof that Green Hill was allowed to submit the notice of intent on behalf of the property owner, so,
Okay.
okay.
Hi,
How you doing?
my name's Richard Chafee. I'm here for Mark this evening. He couldn't make it, so. Welcome. Are you guys familiar with this? Did you each get a copy, or would you like me to put this where you?
Yeah, I can put it up here. So I do have two copies. Based off our site visit, Mark did mark on the plan the trees that would need to come out. So those are shown here in red, and I'll zoom in for you. And then I'll leave it about here. You do have a pointer up there if you want to.
I do.
Yep, point at things.
Okay,
But this plan was received today, so this is.
so the existing home is on the plan with the porch, and that's gonna be removed. The new home starts here. I believe it was about 72 feet. Hold on one second. The existing home is 72 feet to the closest edge in here. The new home is probably another 20 feet from that. The grade line will stop right here as far as the distance to the water, which would be about 82 feet from the wetland or the water's edge. Any questions on that before I keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
So, there's an existing drainage area here in the street, which then comes through and it just percolates through the area. We intend to put in a new pipe here with a discharge area. It's very good, the soil conditions are good, so whatever water comes out of there would dissipate before it got to the water's edge. In this area here is a new catch basin that's gonna be much deeper than what's existing to catch all sediment. And then the driveway over here in this area for the garage, it's pretty small, but we do have some trees in this area that are going to be, I think there's one over here to be removed, yeah. It's leaning towards the home. It's a large tree that we're proposing to take out, just, it's a safety issue, the way it's leaning towards the new home. And then obviously the other trees to be removed are in the area of the home site. The only other thing is, there's a shed here that we'd like to propose. It's approximately 12 by 16, under the square footage for a building permit. It's approximately 192 square feet. 200 square feet is a requirement. Anything above that would be a requirement for a building permit.
What's the distance to the lake?
For the shed, it's
The
probably
shed.
52 feet, maybe 54 feet. You can see the blue line right here is the 50-foot mark.
and we're on the inside of the double staked hay bales. There's 2 rows of hay bales at the water's edge, just for precautionary.
Okay.
Becky?
Yep, so just a few comments. So, looks like there's 11 trees marked here to be removed. One of the questions I had from Mark when we were out there is this large tree here. He didn't think it needed to be removed, but I think that by putting that deep sump there, it's probably gonna need to come out. And then here, and I can show the pictures, I think a couple of you missed the site visit, there's a lot of small trees by this, the channel here, the flow that comes out. I think putting the pipe in, we might be losing a little more vegetation over there, so that's something to think about. As far as that channel goes, so we have the pipe outlets here. There is a kind of well-defined little channel that comes down through here. So one of my questions was to Mark out there as well, do you need to even impact that area? Question, and I don't know if it has wetland vegetation or not, but is there a way that we can just kind of maybe leave that as is and not necessarily have to remove the vegetation in that area? And the thought was with the house moving was that, trying to keep that flow away and have it come out over here. So that was his reasoning for the pipe there. Something to consider if we think it's necessary or not. One question, because there is a lot of tree removal here, one question would be the thought about, can the house stay in the current location? Does it make sense? It's, further away from the lake. A lot of the time we want to see them move, but if it's going to result in a lot of impact here, it's just a question, thinking about, does it make sense? I don't know if it has an existing foundation. I don't think it probably does. I know that if they had to dig a foundation, it probably would result in some impact around the home, but maybe that might be a way of avoiding losing a lot of really mature trees if it's something that you thought was important. So maybe that's an idea to think about. One thing I mentioned to Mark on the site visit too was, with the stormwater management, having a deep sump out there would be a great improvement. But one thing we're seeing with all our other sites, no one's maintaining it. Then it's a concern that it's not going to function. So some O&M plan would be consistent with, one of the houses down the road. We had that just to make sure some maintenance activities are going to be performed as a perpetual condition. And then just looking at infiltrating some roof runoff with a dry well or some other options was what my notes would be.
Okay. Paul?
I have no.
Yeah, I think Becky raised some really good issues. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about the possibility of putting it on the same footprint. And should we request that, or?
Well, I think we can ask if it's a possibility, pros and cons, why you could or couldn't do it.
I have some comment on that. The trees that are there are so large, even if the house got pushed back the approximately 18 feet that it would, that some of them are near 100-foot tall pines, that there'd be a real safety issue. Because you can see they're within just a few feet of the front of the house now. They would be less than 25 feet from the home, even if it was put back to its original spot.
And they are mostly white pine.
Yeah.
Right.
And plus the construction would be so close to
Oh,
them.
geez,
Right,
yeah.
and over the roots,
Right, good point.
right.
I don't have any other comments.
David?
Well, first of all, if there's 11 trees removed, we should talk about our 2-for-1 replacement, of course. In addition to that, I'm kind of curious. There's been no comment whatsoever about what the new homeowner will do with all of the runoff that will come from the road. Because it's not all gonna go into that swale. It comes off the road onto the property. It comes across the road onto the property. Excuse me. How is that going to be controlled? Or is it going to be our position that the house is blocking enough of the area so that you don't have to worry about it? Because there is nothing on the left-hand side or the bottom, as we're looking at it, to protect that area from having serious runoff going directly into the lake and carrying all the fines with it.
You talk about during construction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like they've got erosion controls.
And immediately when they're done with construction, if we have a big rainstorm on Big Elm Road, all those fines are gonna go zipping around that house. On the right-hand side, they'll get picked up by that swale, on the left-hand side, they get picked up by nothing.
That's the way it is right now.
Yeah. I would think that we'd be trying to improve that. Especially since it's all down gradient and swiftly down gradient. That's a steep slope.
I was just there.
I only recognize it because I was up top looking down.
I saw you up there. Well, I think we've had this issue on a whole lot of properties,
They all slope down to the lake.
and they've got a road that is causing fines.
But the question that Becky asked, and I'd like to hear from you guys on, is rather than, why not leave this open rather than a field culvert?
Because Mark's comment about was that it was too close to the,
Yeah.
to the foundation. He didn't want this water interfering with, I mean, correct me
With
if
the
I'm wrong,
foundation
but I
of the
think that
house.
was Mark's explanation. He
Yeah.
wanted to carry it out beyond the edge of the foundation.
Did you want to see a picture of that or
Could you do
anything?
that with an open swale, Steve?
I think you could. It just depends on how much I mean, well, there may be an awful lot of water that's coming out of that. I don't know.
I would think so.
I think one possibility would be using a perforated pipe and allowing a lot of that water to go to get into the ground before it makes it from one end to the other.
Right.
That would be one possibility to consider.
So this is what it looks like now,
Yeah.
with snow on it, but there is a pretty good little defined channel there.
It was fairly deep also.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I agree with you, Ed. I'd like to see it left more or less as it is. But I can also understand, the point they're trying to make. I don't know if that whole area floods or as it is.
Well, one of the things we could talk about then is a wraparound swale. Make it go on the right-hand side, make it come across the front, make it go down some of the left-hand side. That would take care of the runoff that's coming off the road that I was talking about a few minutes ago. Or,
Move this
what we have
down.
other people do is right along the edge of Big Allen Road, a 6 to 8 foot wide area that is grassed in or gravelled in, so that it picks up the water as it's running off from the hillside on the right of Big Allen onto their property, which is on the left of Big Allen.
So what you're saying, David, is to have from one side of the property, which is right here, all the way across,
Yeah,
have a swale at the front of the house. Which we see, we commonly see under driveways and stuff.
yep. And it doesn't even have to be a dip swale, it can be just regular plantings.
Yeah.
Doesn't it drop off fairly quick there?
Yeah, it does.
That would be a problem, to try to put any kind of swale or plantings.
Right.
So that's why they hire engineers, they can figure these things out.
But the issue is this, do we recommend that we leave that as a drain, or do we put a pipe in? I mean, Mark has a reason for putting a
Well-
pipe in.
The one advantage to putting the new structure here and then the pipe is what the structure is gonna do is it's gonna catch all the sediment. It's gonna have it's an extra deep structure to catch the sediment. So anything coming out of the pipe now is just water. It's not the fines from the road and it's not the fines coming across. So that really would make a big difference to keep the fines from getting towards the wetland.
Could this be replaced with a deep sump here? And then
I
you could
don't
still have
know.
an outlet? Or I don't know too, if this pipe needs to be replaced anyways, if it could be directed more here and then,
Yeah, I
let
don't know
to
the
discharge?
logistics, I don't know the
Yeah.
logistics of permitting and digging on this side of the street, but I understand that the pipe was in decent condition, and that's why he opted to go with just the deep sediment
The pipe is already
pit.
there.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, that picture didn't show a lot of vegetation, obviously, because it's a little stream. I mean, get in there with a piece of equipment that's not gonna dig a 4-foot wide place for that pipe,
Well,
I really don't, I don't see an issue with it. I'm not gonna argue with the engineers about it. It looked to me like it was a good place to put a little
actually,
trench in.
it's probably a good idea to argue with the engineers. Probably, I would say 8 out of 10 times that we've had this exact problem, it's come back to us years later.
A pipe like this?
Yeah, the water coming down.
I understand about the water coming
Yeah,
down.
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I agree
I'm
with
not saying
Steve.
like this exactly, I'm just saying that.
I agree with Steve that we should have a closed pipe, because that's gonna make it easier on the homeowner in terms of maintenance.
And it looks like a place that you could put it. It's already a little stream sort of thing there anyway.
Well, it makes it easier on the homeowners in terms of maintenance, because you can't see it as well. You know, as far as, and it gives him more lawn space for his yard.
Which is not a negative thing
No, it
either.
isn't, no, you know,
The other advantage to have that all lawn is if there is any additional sediment that come
Right.
across, the lawn is gonna trap it.
right.
Well,
where do we
regardless of
go,
which
guys?
system we go
First,
with, we're talking about
let's hear-
pervious surfaces anyway.
That's
I
correct.
haven't had a chance
Right.
to speak up, but
Okay.
I have a serious problem with 90% of the trees on this property being cut down. You know, a lot of which are healthy, like particularly this pine tree here. I see that there's a well proposed. I'm not sure if that placement is, you know, why in particular the well's being placed there. You know, I commented to, Mark on site that
Yeah.
I thought that tree should stay, and he said, you know, his comment was, well, it'd be all by itself, because they're cutting everything else down. I'm not sure that I buy that argument. And I'm with Dave, we need a replanting plan. And I wish that there was some other alternative than cutting every single one of those big trees down.
Okay.
I don't think we would be adverse to putting some new trees in, something other than white pines. Just the white pines are a constant problem, and one white pine alone is probably weaker based on just leaving it out there alone. You know, typically the wind will get at one, where a whole group of them, they're kind of protected. So I don't think we'd be adverse to putting more trees throughout, but maybe a different species.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think there could be an opportunity, there will be a lot of lawn, especially if this becomes lawn here too, and maybe looking at some of these spaces and maybe the option of doing replanting in those areas. And then also too, I guess I'd ask Mark to give us a good idea. You know, this tree is gonna have to come out when they put the stump in,
correct.
so let's make sure we mark this appropriately for what we're looking at here, so. And maybe infiltration for roof runoff, we do that a lot on these sites, might just be like a dry well being put in that the roof runoff is directed to,
Okay.
so.
Also, to Stephen's point, we need to find out why the well has to be placed such that a big tree has to be removed. And if that tree has to be removed, we'd like 2 trees to replenish it, but not in that location if they're putting a well there. Why does a well have to be there? There's lots of other flat space down at the bottom of that slope.
I know when they're drilling a well, you know, to protect the wetlands and to keep everything away, it's a common practice to keep it up as far as possible. And I know it has to be off the property line, and then we're trying to keep it away from the house to some degree also. So it could probably be moved some, I don't know how much,
You mean more upslope?
possibly,
Because wouldn't that make it easier on the well driller?
perhaps.
But it's my understanding that the reason for removing this tree has nothing to do with the well. It's because they
Yeah, well,
don't want that tree there.
we'll argue that point.
Yeah.
That's bogus.
All right, anybody in the audience like to speak? Ginny,
I just have a couple questions.
could you grab a mic?
Sure.
please.
Come on, Ginny, you know the game.
Ginny Rossioli, I abut in the back, 273. And my primary question is, are they digging behind the right-of-way? Are they enhancing the parking area?
What do you mean by the right-of-way?
This is the right-of-way.
Okay, right.
My property is back here. Are they digging further in their parking area? If so, how far, and what will they do with the runoff from there, because it's all springs back there?
No, none of that area will be touched.
So,
It's gonna remain the same.
and then I guess my second question would be then, there are now three year-round homes past that point going to the south. How will we have access to get to our homes? Where will they store the equipment? Any debris?
During
Will we
con-
have interruption?
During construction,
Yeah,
it'll all remain on the site. Nothing will be in the roadway or right-of-way.
so we'll be able to get by.
Yes.
Would we be given notice, I'm sure? Are you doing underground electric?
That I'm not sure of right now.
I just want to
I-
be sure
I
we're
don't
given
believe so,
notice if you
but
do block it.
Do you know? if-
The electric plan has not been established
Yeah,
yet.
so we're not sure. But if there is anything
Because
that
that involves
happen-
digging
Yeah,
again.
yeah, if there is, the contractor will give ample notice.
We can put that in the order of conditions, right? The access will remain open to the other houses. Just
If we
so,
can add it in there, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it might be a brief, while someone's unloading a piece of equipment.
Right,
But that
which
would
is-
just be momentarily, and all the equipment would be on the property.
Okay. And I think one of my other questions might be, again, related to this, is the elevations. Will there be any elevation change in terms of the house from where the house is now? It
It's
was built
slightly-
up 3 feet in the property, plus or minus, next to this. Is that happening
It's-
here?
It's slightly, but not, there's a little, if you look at the pointer on, you can see the contour lines here. Anything stays, any additional contour lines just stays within about 4 feet of the house, 4 or 5 feet of the house. And then this is the only other, there's a little additional dirt in the back here, but that's about it.
Okay, when you say,
Yeah, so just, so I didn't understand, so the existing house is at 108?
It looks like 108 right there.
Yeah.
Well, then,
6.
I can't see that.
The left corner is at 110.49, somewhere in this area here,
right.
and this is 110 now.
And that's 106, is that right?
And the,
Yeah.
the new house is at 112, 118, no, what?
In the front yard, here is the 118 contour.
Yeah,
So the existing,
so it looks like it'll
the
be up.
existing is very similar. Out here is 116.
But that's
Without-
not, she's asking about the house.
So the front of the house, right now, this contour line is 116 point, and I can't quite make it out. And this I believe is 116 as well. So as we come this way, is 118. So just the front of the house is gonna be elevated from what the existing grade is. But as you come around the side, approximately 5 to 6 feet on the sides, it falls right back to the existing grade.
So there's a pitch.
Are you asking how high the house is, too?
Right, so it's,
Is it a two-story house that's going in, or?
And
This
is it
is-
a one-story house?
It's a
that's
one-story
there now?
house existing.
So you got, there's 10 feet there.
Right, okay, but as you noticed in the site visit, it's pitched now
Yeah.
at a steep pitch down to the house.
Mhm.
So are you leveling and coming up to be level with the right of way?
No.
Yeah.
Just about.
Okay, so not-
Oh, the driveway,
not
yes,
the
but not the
driveway.
front yard. I'm
Okay,
talking
that
about
means
the
you're gonna
front
have
yard.
some-
To
some-
communicate, Ginny, you've got to get to the mic, please.
So you're gonna have some elevations on either side and the front.
Yes.
So that's something that I'm sure you'll look at in terms of holding the dirt back and stuff.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
they're away, and they're moving away from the lake too, which is a plus.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And again, my other thought was just the digging into the hillside and the water from there, if that was being done.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that
Okay.
hillside's a nightmare.
Yep.
You should-
Thank you.
Anybody else? We've got some issues. I don't know, we've got,
You don't have
Steve would
a,
like to see him cut less trees, see if there's a possibility of less trees. There's possibility of a replant,
We need a planting plan,
a planting plan. What else did we talk about?
Questioning
possibility
about
of
the
moving
well.
the well,
Yeah, the well.
whether to leave it as a pipe or whether to have it as an open swale.
No, I think we kind of agreed on the pipe, right? Didn't we get?
You
to the-
agreed?
Yeah.
and, some type of a
Whoa.
O&M plan for that.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a possibility that they could use a perforated pipe as opposed to the
Yeah.
closed pipe, which I think makes sense.
So, would you like a continuation,
Well-
to take a look at those things?
We have to anyways, because there's no DP file number, so we have to wait anyways, so.
I was gonna see if you could do it nicely, and rather than force them to.
We would like to continue it.
Okay, great.
What about that big pine tree? If they're gonna plant two better trees,
Well, we're gonna have a planting plan for the whole
okay, but
site.
They can come back
we
and
should
tell
give
us
them
that
some
they want.
guidance
Yeah.
on that tree.
Well, if Mark's
What do
convinced
you
that
mean
it's
by
gonna be
guidance? What do you
damaged,
wanna tell 'em?
And we can say, don't cut it, or we can say, cut it, but show us where you're gonna replace the trees. I mean, put two trees in its
Well, we're
place.
asking them to come back with a planting plan. If we don't, if we're not satisfied with the planting plan, we don't approve the project.
Just trying to avoid a step
What?
regarding that tree. That's all.
Yeah.
Any concern, sorry, with it being, I mean, it's a small driveway, but notice that it's paved. Adjacent properties, we had them do pavers, permeable pavers there. Do you have any concern?
Well, that's a good point. Would you
You've asked for
consider
that,
pavers? You know what they look like?
or gravel?
I guess so.
They look like blocks
Yeah.
rather than tar. Because that you get some absorption.
Is it the maintenance of that difficult in terms of, snow
No, it's
removal
not,
and?
it's not. It's not difficult. Take a look at some of them on the street.
Okay.
There's different options, and Mark
Yeah.
might be able to give you an idea on the different things and what type of, some maintenance is required with some of those things to make sure that they, infiltrate. But there's some different options that are available that,
Okay.
you can look at.
if you say pervious pavers to your contractor, he'll come up with a great list with lots of color pictures and a good understanding about what you require for maintenance.
That requires a lot of cost as well, I'm sure.
You're right.
Take a look at that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the things you're gonna bring back to the
Okay.
next meeting? All in favor of a continuation? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Any questions at all? We're all set, right?
The only other thing that you talked about that I want to make sure that you put in the notes is the roof drains, if that's
Yes,
discharge
yep.
water.
Yeah.
So we'll just put that in there, so we'll have it for the next.
Okay.
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mark all right?
He is,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. He's getting some much-needed time off. So,
I know that.
all right,
It's in Wyoming.
thank you.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, back to, where do you wanna go here now?
Just looking at who we have here. Are you Jeff? Oh. Jack. I was close. So we'll just wait for Don Taft to get here, and then we can talk about that. I think he's gonna be here about 7:15 or so. So I said we can wait for that. And then we have you guys, Doug, Raoul's here. I don't know that Mass DOT representative's coming in. I did not receive a confirmation on that. I can give you an update on.
Or we'll wait to get the update at the end if they're not here.
That's fine, but Raoul is here for
I'm
that,
sorry,
so.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Unless
then
you wanna
let's
make
do it
them wait
now
to
then.
the
I was
end.
trying to do, no, we don't.
Ready to do an update, hear your update? Give you
That was my error. I was
when you're ready.
thinking no one was here for it, so we could wait. Go for it, Becky.
Oh, sorry. So on Friday, so in regards to the enforcement order for Mass DOT, Mass Pike, Cedar Lake, I was out there on Friday with Mass DOT staff and their contractor. Raul came out in the morning, was able to work with them. We were able to access both sides of the lake to remove the spoil piles. A couple things they need to go back and do on the east side. Once they started removing all the sediment within, they didn't have to take the fence down, so it was actually a little less impact than what we anticipated. A lot of the stuff on the slope in the back started kind of falling in a little bit. A lot of large crushed stone there. Not a huge concern if some of that stone falls in, but they need to go back out this spring. There wasn't enough time because of the moving the excavator, you know, loading it and bringing it all the way around and unloading and backing down the road. There just wasn't enough time in the day to tackle everything, and it wasn't anticipated there'd be an issue there. So I did inform them that they do need to go back out, and I don't think they need to bring an excavator back out there to do that work. Couple guys with some shovels, I think they can pull that back reasonably. They need to go back out and check and do some monitoring over there anyways. So that's the east side. The west side, they were able to access, one of the abutters allowed permission to go through his yard to get down there. They were able to open the gate and only remove one small tree along the water's edge and remove the spoil pile there. So originally in the beginning of the week, Mass DOT said they were going to do the swale as well. That's on hold right now. We weren't really given a good answer on when that's going to happen. So while we were out there as well, I did ask again about the north side of the Mass Pike and the assessment of those drainage structures that are failing over there, which still hasn't been looked at. So to go back to the lake, so on the west side, they're able to remove that stuff out. I kind of stockpiled, spread it out for now, and then they need to go back and fix the gate. And I think, Mr. Lincoln, there's a little bit of damage maybe where the gate was, but the rest of the area is okay. So we'll have them go back. What I'd like to do at this time, and I think what we need to do is, so they don't think that they're done with everything, is that we provide some type of correspondence kind of summarizing what's been done to date for an enforcement order, and what we're still looking for. So when I was out there, I did bring one of the Mass DOT staff, not Bill, the other guy, through the tunnel and showed him the other stuff from what we could see, and, you know, did raise those concerns, and that some of that stuff would, you know, not too involved to fix those things. Raul brought up some good points when we were out there about, you know, asking about the long-term improvements he's discussed in that area. And asking again, you know, what we've been saying is you really need to look at the rest of these drainage structures and do something about them, so. Raul, do you want to add anything, or?
Certainly.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
While he's getting up there, did they actually remove the plume? Or are they still waiting for more about the drawdown before they remove the plume?
Oh, no, they just removed the two piles that they identified on that plan that they showed us.
Right,
All
they
their,
did nothing with the plume.
exactly, and even when, you know, we required that they had, you know, an assessment done in that area, I think when they had BSC Group go out there, all they did was they sent their two surveyors out there and identified those two piles, and that was it. And that's all that was shown on that plan. You know, nothing about, you know, some long-term impacts that have been happening in that area. This was just more of, oh, there's an issue here, and we see a pile, and that's what we're gonna remove, so.
So, Raul Ricard, 53 Beach Avenue, also a member of the Cedar Lake Association. So, overall with the project, we are happy that through the help of your group and also through Rebecca's diligence, we've got MassDOT starting to address some of the short-term problems. They have fixed the broken pipe and runoff of the silt and sand in. They put a new, what do they call it, at the top
Discharge outlet up there.
Right,
yeah.
discharge at the top, which we're monitoring because we're not sure if it's going to do what they had to do, but at least it's there. And they've taken the first pass at removing some silt and dirt out, which they just did, okay? And although we're happy that they're moving, they seem to be moving at their own direction and their own pace and not listening to what you guys are insisting on getting as a plan and those types of things, which is concerning, but at least they're moving. So, and taking some action on some of the problems. where my concerns are from the association and continue to be there is that their actions seem to be in short-term mind, fix a bleeding problem, but not fix the overall problem over the long haul. Even on the site visit recently, when Bill Dorrit was there from, he made it sound like he didn't even know what was happening on the
Right.
north side, on the Hamilton Road side, which has broken asphalt falling into the waterway and has a retention pond that the pipe is not even doing what it should be doing. So my discussions with him were, again, about, I want you to fix the short-term problems to at least stop the bleeding, but what is the long-term plan for this? And he continues to allude to Mass Pike improvements that are supposed to happen, and they would redo the whole watershed area at the same time. He made another comment about a new pipe replacement project that's being openly discussed to replace a lot of old corrugated pipes that were used in the past with new pipes throughout the state. He even gave me his boss's name and contact information and asked if I would send a letter to his boss asking about, this improvement project, which I've drafted that, sent it to Rebecca to review, because I want us to collectively keep the pressure on MassDOT to actively fix the problems and fix them for the long term. So although they fix some short-term things, they're slow to keep moving on the long-term plan, and that's really what we need in place for the lake long-term and for that whole area, because it is still up to 1950s standards right in that whole area and eroding all over the place, in my opinion. So you have the commitment from the Cedar Lake Association that we will not let this topic die and that we'll continue to put pressure on it and be the citizen advocates, as you called it, Steve, at one point. And I want to try and get in front of MassDOT, and I've offered to be involved with MassDOT if they want to use Sturbridge as a testing ground to improve that watershed in the state, and whatever they want to do. But we need to get the long-term project addressed by them, and I need your continued pressure along with our association to make that happen. So that's my high-level comments on where we are since we started in the fall to where we are right now.
Summer, August.
What's
We
that?
started in August. We started in
August.
August,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it was right after our meeting. So I don't know if you guys have any additional questions of where we're at or additional ideas on how we can keep that pressure going with them. There is a letter that I've drafted and sent to Rebecca that I want to come from the association to begin with, but to copy the conservation agent as well so that they hear the pressure from us. And I can bring a groundswell of lake residents to any meeting, anytime you want to have it, to hear the pressure from a broader community than myself and the members of our board, because they're all concerned about the lake and the water quality, which they should be.
Yep, they should be.
Speaking to the choir, man.
Huh?
You're speaking to the choir.
Yeah.
So I want the choir to speak with me and keep pressuring them, that's all.
But
And I know you will.
enforcement order against it.
So I don't know if there's additional, like you mentioned, additional documentation, additional where we are, what's been done, hasn't been done. I think we need to keep that pressure on them. I don't know if there's additional enforcements or whether you close one enforcement, add another one. I don't know what your normal protocols are. I just want to keep them active. And I do applaud that they're actually taking some action, which
Yeah.
to me means they know there's some responsibility on their part to fix this.
Yep, I think you're right.
Well, I don't think they've addressed all the items in our enforcement order. So I think at this point, what I was saying is we should provide some correspondence that provides information on what's been done to date and what still needs to be addressed, and that we're still looking for information on that. So that's, I guess, my recommendation at this point. I want to make sure that they know that because they fixed the pipe and removed the spoil pile, that they're not done.
Right. Right. And we need to, as Raul said, we need to keep the pressure on them, because they will go away if we go away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as quick as
And
we
we're
stop.
right back to square one pretty fast.
Yeah.
Go to weigh in.
So the gentleman's name at DP, at MassDOT is, that I was given was Barry Lorian. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He's based in the Worcester office.
He's in the central office, right?
Right, in Worcester. And, like I said, I've asked for Rebecca's feedback on the letter before I send it. It will come from the association. You certainly all can have a copy. I'm just trying to make sure that he understands that from our community perspective and Lake community perspective, we're concerned about it. We want them to address
Did you look at
and
it?
fix the problem.
I looked at it briefly today.
Yeah, she
I
did.
need to
just
review
gave
it. I
to
just
her
didn't
over
have
the weekend.
time, so.
Because we just met Friday, and I got that option to send a letter.
I think it's a good idea to go up to the next level. See if that
Yeah.
does any good. I mean, in reality, the people that are working on that are, they're answerable to this fellow that you're talking about.
Well,
We're not
I'm anxious
happy.
to see if Mr. Lorian actually responds to the letter that I send, because if he does, again, it's accountability from them, and there's a lot of talk about. So if they're gonna make repairs on the Mass Pike, then tell me that's gonna be in 2021. They're gonna do those Mass Pike repairs, and at that time they'll have a re-engineered watershed plan. Great, at least fix the bleeding for now. And I'm happy to wait till 2021 and do that in partnership with them and with you guys.
We need a plan.
But that it's going to happen sometime in the future is not a good answer. And I don't think that Bill, who has been here, can give that answer. In all fairness to him, as in his position, he can't give it. So maybe his boss can.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's handed a list. Bill is. This is what you're gonna work on, and when he comes up with something extra, because there's an enforcement order, he'll do.
Well, what we've gotten so far
Minimum.
is like you said, we've gotten, some bandages.
And
I.
I'm happy with the bandages, at least,
Like I said, it's like a placebo for me when I'm
Right.
like, oh man, they did that,
Yeah,
But, all right, let's do this. We'll take a look at your letter. She'll get back to you on that, and we'll take a hard look at that whole area there.
yeah, we might, who did the enforcement order go to, Becky? Did it involve this, the fellow,
Bill?
Bill's boss?
It was just issued to Mass DOT, that district. So it wasn't to a particular person. I mean, I've kind of well documented that area. I've been taking photos throughout the duration that we've been involved. I mean, I can provide our next correspondence to his boss if we think that's necessary, with that additional information, photographs, the maps I've done, and, go through each area individually as I did
I
before.
think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I'll read, I have all that already because I've already done it, but
Yeah.
I can
And
redo it
maybe-
for them.
Yeah.
And maybe the
With updates
enforcement
for
order,
each-
and
Yes.
just say that we understand that, the staff that are working on it might not be the decision makers, and we're looking for a plan that maybe it's at his level that needs to be produced. The pressure
We
to
wanna
get
keep it
on
in
the
immediate, keep the pressure on.
Mm-hmm.
Put together a letter and we'll take a look at it. and
Okay.
go from there.
The obvious failure here is that Mass DOT does no maintenance.
I'm sorry?
They do no maintenance.
Right.
They put the systems in, they pray to God they're gonna last for 20 years, and in between times, they don't look at them. He showed up here with a 1954 print. Come on.
I know. So my overall message is, we've gotten them to take some action. We need to continue to keep the pressure on them to fulfill fixing the problem for the long haul. So we may not be successful, but we better damn well try, in my opinion.
So keep stepping it up.
Right. So I'm going to step it up with this letter. If something else needs to go to somebody else, I'm happy to do that. Happy to go to our representatives in the state level if we have
We can do
to.
that too. That's a good point.
What's that?
We can do that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So happy to go to public
Yeah.
TV stations if you want me to, okay? But what I do want to do is I want to be in lockstep with you guys in doing that. We're willing to do that from the association perspective because we feel it's the right thing for the lake and for the community and for the town. End of story. And these are 50-year-old drainage problems, and they're asphalt falling into the lake right now. So we've got to correct it pretty quickly. All right? Last thing, Becky, I want to validate. I got your email, but I want to validate that we have a thumbs up to at least bring the lake up with normal course of action at this
Yes,
point.
yep, we're all set
Okay,
with
we're
what
down
was done in
24
there.
inches. We're going to start that slow draw up, shortly. And we know our normal process that we go through.
Well, between March 1st and March 15th, you could do it.
What's up?
Between March 1st and March 15th,
Right.
you could do it anyway.
Right. But we would have held longer if they needed more time to do their
Oh, you mean
thing.
if they were going to do something?
Right.
Well, with all due respect, they called us on Thursday to say they want to come in with excavators, and our representative was ready to start the draw up right now. So on
I
the
think you should-
27th,
With all due respect in there, she just said they called you on Thursday.
I'll tell you, we scrambled and gave them approval with the residents combined to get that thing done. So, I'm not going to hold them up. I will not be a holdup on our association for something they want to actually do, but I got to get them to do what they need to do in the long term. Okay?
All right.
Thanks for your
Okay.
time and service.
No
Keep
worries.
the pressure on.
You all set, Becky, on that?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Raul.
Thank you.
One more off the list. All right.
We're not gonna do anything with Quinnebog River. You wanna just give us an update on that?
Right, I'll give you an update on that afterwards.
All right.
Thank you.
What do you wanna go to now? Well, take care.
Bye.
Who's here that we want?
Hamilton Run and Gun, yeah, he was,
Okay.
yeah, if you guys wanna come up.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
My name's Jack Austin, I'm a representative for Ramco Construction.
Don Taft from the Hamilton Flood and Gun Club.
Okay. You gonna start it off, or are they gonna, or what do we?
Oh, I'll start off. So, right, this is in response to the enforcement order issued. We did discuss it at our last meeting, although in our letter, we did say that we're looking for representatives to be here at this meeting to go over the enforcement order and to go over the orders that we've addressed, which included development of some plans for this meeting. I've been working with Jonathan at Ramco and Dawn. Jonathan, as we know, immediately kind of started addressing some of the sedimentation control issues on site, revamping those, cleaning out that that outlet in the catch basin, looking at where things need to go. Obviously, ground is frozen, so some issues we weren't able to get any silt fences in. We've got a lot of bales out there and wattles, which seem to be doing okay for now. Part of our issue too is the driveway going down and making sure we can kind of block water there, because that's actually kind of the issue coming out there. So going through the enforcement order, the first thing was to immediately inspect and identify all areas. We did work on that. I think we have a good kind of plan in place for that. Jonathan did send a plan showing where they put some of the sedimentation controls at this time. He also did submit to me a draft plan. I don't remember the exact date he sent it. He submitted a draft plan for our, erosion controls for both the parking area and the gravel removal area on inspection and maintenance, who will be doing things. I did receive that. I commented back to him. I did receive an update today, a revised draft on that, including some of the things that I added in there. You do have copies of
In there.
there. You do not have the one that I received today, because I just got it after we made your copies, but you have the one that added my kind of comments to him. So I do have that. We asked them to develop a plan to restore all impacted resource areas. They have an environmental person who's supposed to be working on that. I haven't, they're supposed to contact me. I haven't heard from that person. They were unable to come to the meeting tonight as well. So I haven't received anything on that. Number 4 of my enforcement order was develop a short-term plan to implement stormwater BMPs to manage stormwater. That's what we've also been working on. Number 5 has been kind of addressed as part of Jonathan's plan. 6 was a long-term plan. It's kind of 2 things we're looking at here. We have the gravel removal, which we gave a permit for, which is a long-term plan for getting that done. So there's work they need to do, and they're gonna implement stormwater management there. We reviewed that, approved that. That'll get started sometime, maybe early spring. We don't know exactly at this point. And then we've talked about just the parking lot in general. Rod and Gun Club is interested in maybe moving the access into there, further up the road away from the resource area. So maybe we could close those parking areas, or the driveways right there, which are, a danger or safety hazard for them at this time. That would be great, because then we can make sure that water's not getting directed down there, which is getting onto the road and getting right into the stream there. So that's something that they're working on, thinking about, and maybe that will happen after the gravel operation's done.
Yeah, I talked with both the Highway Superintendent Greg before he left, and also Planning, and both departments were in favor of doing that. And then that main entrance would become an emergency entrance only, and we could probably put a pretty decent berm across there so that, there's absolutely no water.
Will that be safe enough?
I'm sorry?
Will that be safe enough? Because that's like higher on the hill. When I've come out the lower one, you really have to look to get your butt going.
So the new entrance will be up, about 40 yards up from the last guardrail, and it gives us a much better line of sight, and the road is straight at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
So both Highway and Planning were in favor of it, and
Okay, all right.
to be honest with you, I haven't pursued it because it wasn't anything we were gonna try to get done this winter, and hopefully we can address that in the spring when we start the gravel project again.
Is it going up toward the rifle range?
Yes,
Yeah.
makes sense, the road's straight
Yeah,
there.
it straightens out there, yeah. And talking about that camel hump in the driveway,
Yes.
one of the reasons that I suggested it was because you could direct it in such a way that it would carry the water as it came down on the driveway across into the detention basin.
Absolutely, right. Yep, that would be the intent.
Okay.
So we're working on things, and I'll let Jack give an update, because Jack's been doing some of the inspection there, which is what we kind of asked for this time, to make sure that someone's going out there, because that was part of the issue, is that, our sedimentation controls are up, and no one was maintaining them.
Right, primarily, I'm going once a week approximately, unless we have a melt or a severe rain of some sort. And I'll take photos, I'll submit them to Jonathan and so forth. And if some wattles need to be placed, or straw bales or some sort of thing like that, then I'll do that myself on the spot. If not, if I can't, because of the weather or something, we'll get there as soon as possible, usually the next day or something. There's always been somebody there typically to,
Yep.
see what we're doing and so forth. As far as the driveway, I know we put a construction pad going up when the trucks start going up. So that'll also help prevent any runoff.
Right, yeah, and we did add that in our
It's gonna be 15
permit
by
there too.
35.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, everything's been being worked on. I didn't receive a reply about that draft plan until today, but I did get those comments added. I just got it late this afternoon, so I didn't really review the whole thing and make sure my comments were incorporated. But I felt that with that addition, I think that would address our concerns to make sure that it's being done. It included, documenting what days they're out there. There's a log, receiving, a once a month report. I think I had added in there, showing that someone's been going out there and looking at this. Some street sweeping if necessary, with the driveway and actually the street right there. Keep that, checking the catch basin and cleaning that as necessary. Addition of a silt sack maybe in there, was something that was noted.
I think Ramco had Helgerson out there at least twice, cleaning out the sedimentation basin, and I think those hay bales by the front top of the entrance
Are
have
helping
worked
keep that
very-
out.
really well, so.
I think that was the 11th.
Yeah.
last time.
All right, so
Yeah.
You satisfied with where we're headed?
I am. I would like to have Ramco's environmental person contact me, and we can get moving forward on looking at that, because that's something that hasn't really been addressed yet, so.
The other thing we mentioned that we would do would be to add some additional hay onto the side lawn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
With the
Septic.
hydro seeding, you know, it's too late in the year. We did put some hay there, some straw. It's frozen. I mean, we'll go out, we'll watch that, and if it needs more, we'll put more out there. I think Ramco is,
Yeah, once
Yeah.
the snow melts, I mean,
Yeah.
piling on top of the snow doesn't.
Right, putting on the snow is not gonna help,
Right.
correct, but yeah,
It's been a difficult time. The weather hasn't been
Yeah.
the most cooperative lately.
yep.
yeah. And we just gotta be careful, you know, especially, we might be having warm weather coming again, so we're probably gonna have a lot of melt. I mean, that's been a lot of the issues on the sites this winter and last winter, is these unexpected, but now becoming expected melts, the change in weather, and really causing some havoc. So as long as, you know, everyone's prepared ahead of time, and, you know, going back out and keeping an eye on that, and having, I think we have some stockpiles still on site too, if needed.
We do.
Right,
Yeah,
I think,
good.
I dropped off a truckload of wattles
Yep.
on the right-hand side
Yep.
a few weeks ago.
Great.
So,
Right. All
All
set?
right, so our next meeting is in 2 weeks. I think maybe we'd like to at least have something from the environmental person for that next meeting. I will review what he sent me, provide it to commission if you want to look at it, and maybe we can get that finalized, so that's crossing off a few of
When's
the.
the next meeting?
The next meeting is.
The 19th and then the 2nd of April, March 19th. I don't know if they'll make it on that. Oh, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think if, you know, at least we can have something moving with that environmental person by that time. I mean, it, you know, we first identified this, I think it was January 24th, maybe around there. So it's, I mean, it's been a little while and the person hasn't called yet, so we'd like to see something kind of move forward with that.
I'll do that first.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thank you.
And don't bank on the fact that it's gonna get warm, like Becky said.
Oh, okay.
This is your permit.
So that's for.
This is for the earth removal, the
Okay.
final stuff. Yep,
Okay.
yep. And if you,
Just wanted to be-
yeah, and if you need help with what you need to do,
Meeting, I thought we
call.
could
Okay.
move the meeting to the second Tuesday, right? But we'll ask.
You wanna go now, Mickey?
we have 3 groups here. We have Doug from QQLA. We have Ben here about 179 Main Street parking lot to give us an update, and then we have,
Good Ben here.
okay,
Good Ben?
it'd be quick, yeah, I think.
Be quick.
Yep. Yeah, if you want to come up and just introduce yourself, and I think I need to pull anything up.
Ben Tully from 179 Main Street, the old Rom's building. You have questions you need to ask?
Yeah, well, I guess to refresh your memories here, so this was the parking lot where it was gravel and it was changed. We had the asphalt grindings out there. We had some stormwater issues where adjacent property owners contacted us. It appeared that it was coming from back there. Work was within our buffer zone or jurisdictional area. We did say that it, you know, would have needed a notice of intent filing to do that work.
Hold on just a sec. Did you have a question before you leave?
No, I was just gonna kinda hang around.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, great.
So we asked that he work on an after-the-fact notice of intent and work on some stormwater management, as it would have been required for that. So we asked that, you know, that he comes in and gives us an update on the progress of that.
I have contacted Burton Engineering, and they're busy, but they're gonna be working on some type of a sedimentation basin plan. I think we would pick the parts that would be where the runoff goes now. Again, we put millings, gravel, instead of gravel to create, you know, less of an environmental impact. Just like a dirt road over a number of years, you know, if you put gravel on a dirt road, it's not pervious anymore. It becomes impervious. Well, that's kind of what's happened. As far as the running off, the runoff that we saw last time, because that was a crazy storm where everything was frozen and there was a lot of rain. As far as anything that we do changing property on Blueberry Lane, if you go to our property during a rainstorm, the water comes from, you know, starting at Shepherd Road and comes down there and ends up in the wetland, which is actually, you know, Farquhar Road and onto Blueberry Lane, really. All the area is wet because that's the low spot and the water comes from the high spot. So there's water entering our property that's coming from other people's properties, from all of Shepherd Road. So, we can contain whatever's coming in that back parking lot. Is it 100% impervious? I'm not sure, you know, I mean, it's certainly compacted just like dirt roads are compacted, but.
Right, and I think, I mean, right, there's a lot of question with millings, and I think if you're adding stuff to it, I mean, depending on if it's just millings put down, compacted,
It's just millings put
whatnot.
down.
But I think the issue here was the conversion of the area, and it changed. I mean, there's a couple engineers sitting in the room here, so they probably help me with this, but like
I'm an engineer too.
so you're looking at what the runoff, the change in the runoff there. So you look at what the existing site is. We know that a portion was a gravel parking lot. Looking at the aerial photos, it looks like there might have been some edge area that was growing back in. I don't know how much of that really was like a hard pack gravel, but you're looking at the change of what, if it was a hard pack gravel, and then now you're putting something else there, you're looking at that, right? Is it different than tar? Yes, but we don't know what that difference is. So with the millings, the compacted millings, you really need to look at that change. And I'm not an engineer, but you're looking at that rate, the runoff rate change.
It's minimal, I mean.
Yeah, but I think we would need to see that. And if there is a change, that is kind of a trigger in a sense. So that was our take on it. I mean, you obviously have the ability to have your engineer provide that information, but I guess we really need to see what the whole site looked like, because from the aerial photos, you could tell there was a portion in the back that was probably, you know, maybe a hard pack gravel, but then the other areas looked a little bit different in the photo. So we would need some information on that, because otherwise, I don't know that we would consider that a hard pack gravel in the whole area. So, I mean, I think if your engineer wants to put that information together, we'd be happy to look at it, but based off the information that we have, I think that there was some type of change there, so.
The photos were prior to us submitting a plan for when we redid the building and the site. So when you gave us the first photo, that was when it was Rom's and the Mexican restaurant. The second photo was after we constructed our approved plan for the new 179 Main, which is there now.
I mean, I can pull them up, so, yeah, correct. The first plan showed it without what looked like a tarred parking lot back there. And the second photo, obviously, you can see that change. But I can pull them up if you want.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that we had a plan we needed to create that amount of parking to comply with the town for the tenants that we have in the building.
So that parking lot should have been on the plan.
It was, absolutely. The parking lot was, the parking lot was.
It was shown as a gravel parking lot.
It was shown as a gravel parking lot. I used millings gravel on it.
What plan? We've never seen a plan. That's one of the problems.
No, I can
Oh, no.
show you.
Oh, no,
so-
you've never seen a plan?
Oh, maybe we've never,
The plan was approved 6 years ago prior to
All right,
construction
this
of
is
the
the
building.
plan that came in front of
Correct.
Conservation.
That's it.
So there was a letter permit that came in front of Conservation, and the only work that was shown within our buffer zone was this landscape planting and the removal of these 3 trees. The back parking lot is shown as, it shows it as an existing gravel parking area throughout.
I did see this.
In the letter
Yeah.
that
Oh,
was
thank you.
sent from Conservation stated that any change of the gravel parking lot to impervious is what they wrote, or any other work within the jurisdictional buffer zone requires review.
Rebecca, that's not the approved plan, because we had to create islands in the back also and some landscape planting in the
Okay,
back also.
so this is the plan that came to Conservation.
This is what you brought to us.
To conservation?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, then when it went to planning, they made us add some
Right.
landscaping?
Okay, so, right, I don't know what other
Okay.
plans, but this is the only one that came to Conservation that we have a record of.
Okay.
So based on our records, there was no change to this back lot.
Correct. Yep, it showed it as existing. There's an edge of pavement right here. Shows this as existing gravel throughout the area. But then, so I can just pull it up on, oh no. So if you look at these aerial photos, like this one that's on is 2008, 2009. I mean, you can see there's the pavement, there's some, looks like gravel area, but then this whole back area, I mean, you can
like
see
grass.
vegetation.
Yeah.
So that's what we were kind of looking at. I mean, I can find a more recent one,
Right, but we got approval to go from what you're looking at for a picture.
not from conservation though.
Yes, we did.
Well, that's the only plan that we have. If you, I mean, if you guys have those records, I'll take them. Right, the only
So
records that I
seven
have-
years, 7 years ago, when we submitted all the plans to the town, we didn't get an approval from conservation, we just got it from planning and from all of the other boards in the town, nothing from conservation?
Well, I checked with the town planner when this first issue kind of came up, and I think she had thought it was just gravel on their plans too. So we can go back through their records.
Which,
But
But-
the answer appears, yes, you did not come to us for, with an expanded plan. It didn't come to us.
yet you have the expanded plan, because she just showed it to me. So how did I not come to you with a
Well,
plan if
that's
she
what-
just showed me
No.
the plan? I don't understand.
She showed you a plan that showed no work back there.
No, no, that's not true.
Well, that's
Well,
what
this
she
is-
just
What's the
had.
date on it? Wait,
No.
we're trying to clarify.
So this is the plan, and it shows it as existing gravel at that time.
Right.
Right. Correct, and we had to create more parking with a gravel parking lot.
Okay, but that's the part that,
That, yeah, well, so that's
For
an
that plan.
that's a
action that you
change.
took.
Per that plan.
Then it should be on this plan, and it's not on this
It's not
plan.
on that plan, that's the problem. We don't have a plan that says we're
And
gonna
that's
put
the letter you guys
something
issued.
other than this gravel.
Right, we put millings gravel instead of gravel, but we still have a plan of what we created for that back parking lot.
And this is what,
Yeah.
I mean, the engineer sent this letter with that, saying that they're saying there's no work within 100 feet. Within 200 feet was just the landscaping strip and the removal of the
Yeah.
trees, so.
Yeah, which is, this is bogus, it's not correct. If you expanded in the back or took action in the back, Mike Lang said you did.
We didn't take, we didn't,
Yeah, I mean, you can,
we didn't create the plan that we submitted?
purpose of this letter is to request the conservation's approval of work between 100 and 200 feet, between the 100 and 200 feet buffer zones, which does not require filing a notice of intent. You're clearly, the back edge of this is clearly, it's, what, 10 feet from a wetland?
There's no wetlands on our property.
Well,
And we
the
own-
back, that back
We
of
own
it-
quite a bit back into the woods
Yeah.
where the stone walls are, so there's
Yeah.
no wetlands on our property.
Well, I think the corner over here has some.
Nothing on our property.
It doesn't matter whether it's on your property. If you're exacerbating a wetland by putting down an impervious surface and expanding.
Again, that's opinionated, because if I paved it, that's an impervious surface. If I put down millings gravel, it's only become impervious over years of, 7 years of compaction. I submitted that plan 7 years ago. But,
Well,
that
that's
being
not
said,
gravel.
I'm still here
I
to
have
say-
never heard millings called gravel or gravel called millings.
So,
Have you?
yes.
So if I said I was gonna dump some gravel at your house, and
No.
I sent millings,
No, millings gravel. Millings gravel.
both words together, I can understand.
Millings gravel is something that's been milled off of a surface and it's cold, not 185 degrees like asphalt pavement.
Well,
Either way, I'm here to say that we want to create for the runoff some type of sediment, we want to submit to you some type of sedimentation basins for those two runoff areas, in order to comply with, you know, because it's even if it was gravel, it's compacted where it's not pervious.
Exactly.
It's not pervious. So if we can create over the banking or you know, a place with, on the edge of the guardrail or beyond the guardrail of a couple of riprap pools to retain that water before it goes out,
And you're gonna have Burton do that?
I'll have them design that on the existing runoff areas, because, I mean, that's where the water's gonna go.
When do you think that you can get them to do it? You said they were busy.
He said probably you'd be able to look at it by next week, but I did contact him.
So we'll schedule you for the next meeting, which is the
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2
Maybe at
weeks.
least we can have
Hopefully
a
he can have it done by then, but, yes.
draft
Yeah.
plan for discussion and
Hopefully.
then
Yep.
move forward with what
Yeah.
needs to be filed for a permit application, so.
Yeah.
But as far as your Blueberry Lane complaints, you have to go back there during the rain, because the water comes from Shepherd Road. You know, that parking lot is quite a bit higher. The water comes from Shepherd Road, from the gas station, from the motel that's there, and it
We don't
just.
disagree with that water comes from there. We don't,
Okay.
you know.
But I'm just saying is our basins, and we want to comply, but I'm not sure it's going to help the people who own the property on Blueberry Lane.
Well, you know, we'll see.
Just for the record, I tromped up through the woods there, the day that all that water,
Yep.
you know, they tried to contact, us, it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and anyway, I got the call from a fellow on, Blueberry Lane, and I went out there with him. And there may be water going somewhere on Blueberry Lane from somewhere else, but I can tell you that the water that is going across about 5 houses that we looked at, came from that parking lot. So, you know, there might have been something somewhere else, but I tracked it personally and saw that it was coming off of there. And it's great that you're gonna address that, and we probably should have recognized that immediately. And a lot of this discussion about the engineering of runoff, fact of the matter was, the fellow that I met with, and he talked with his neighbors, it started about the time that work was done.
7 years
In the
ago.
back he said about 5 years ago that he started seeing it. And yeah, that time, that was a tremendous rainstorm we had that day, and it was frozen.
And the ground was frozen,
And I could
yep.
see that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
But a lot of the times before, that it happened when it wasn't necessarily frozen, it was just a rain, and those yards got flooded. So, you know, you're right, some of it's coming from somewhere else, but I personally walked up and saw 2 or 3 places coming off your parking lot, and it's great that you guys are gonna address that.
We are, yes.
Good.
We are.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ben. for
All right, so
coming
we'll update that,
Yeah.
and I'll meet with Frank at Burton, and we'll try to get, is a draft plan okay for 2 weeks, or I'll try to get him.
That's probably all
plan
he'll
for it.
have is some type of draft plan for that time frame.
Okay.
And we can have a discussion about what he's proposing and how we think that's gonna help with the situation and appropriate permitting, so.
Okay.
That's great.
in. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming in. Vicky, what do you wanna do next?
We have 30 River Road and Doug from QQLA about South Pond.
Well,
Your choice.
your choice. Pick it up. Which do you want?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, QQLA, proposed alum treatment for South Pond. Mr. Vincent.
Okay, I did send a picture to Becky earlier today. It's just a picture of algae. That's the basic problem, right?
Doug, you need to introduce yourself, please.
Oh,
and your
I'm Doug,
address.
I'm Doug Visit, QQLA. There's a picture of about 10 acres of blue-green algae. That ain't good. that occurred just this last year. And I sent this picture along because you can really see it's blue-green algae. So algae has been an increasing problem, advancing eutrophication of South Pond. In an analysis which you have received, ESS report regarding the proposal to at least begin the process of going to Mass DEP and so forth of an alum treatment of South Pond, which will mitigate the phosphorus column in the water for about 10 or 15 years. Common treatment in very similar ponds throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, throughout New England, throughout the nation, is just the treatment, the treatment of the pond with alum. To those in the management of these kinds of lakes, alum treatments are very common, the accepted practice for treatment of reservoirs, deep ponds that have very low recharge rates. So I take it you've read the proposal, understand the proposal? You don't understand the proposal, okay. The proposal in short is a welcomed revision of the TMDL of 2007. And in fact, that's what it focuses on, and it hones right into the correction of the phosphorus balance in South Pond using the further analysis of what the deep phosphorus looks like. And basically the reason for the deep phosphorus is many, many years of eutrophication. Now, we have recently, thankfully, put to bed our campaign to improve the Spencer wastewater treatment plant. I hope you also read that NIPTES, all 100 pages. I'm sure it was great reading. The good news is we have really achieved a milestone at advancing the NIPTES permit and putting to bed some old problems with that kind of sewerage treatment plant, mainly the groundwater discharge problem and the better accounting of phosphorus emission. So that's the good news. Even in those comments, by the way, if you read the NIPTES, an alum treatment of South Pond is discussed. But again, and thank you for your participation in that campaign to upgrade the Spencer wastewater treatment plant. That will be going into effect approximately May 1. Okay. On to the algae. Increasing problem. That amount of algae that you see in that water is it is the kind of algae that does present a public health problem. B, it's certainly at a concentration, as I see it, that is, I'm sure, will trigger the toxins that are irritating to people and dogs that like to drink the water and so forth and so on. The transient, they come in, they come out, they go out, and they are a big and increasing problem. We see them increasingly. We have other pictures. We have a compendium of pictures of the algae blooms. There's also, of course, the filamentous algae that's there, and that's has been an irritating presence and increasing amounts that has a constant problem in South Pond. So basically, the study of the deep phosphorus in South Pond and its special conditions with chemically reduced iron and anoxic metabolism and all of that stuff, right? Not an easy sell to anybody that doesn't understand it. But basically the way the problem is attacked is to treat it with alum, which precipitates the phosphorus in the water column and turns it into sand on the bottom. It doesn't really have any other effect than that very oversimplified explanation. What I'm looking for is we're trying to get into a 319 grant with the state. We need a host town, and we would like Sturbridge to be the host town. The host town designation and responsibilities in a 319 grant is simply the banker. Right? So that's really all we're asking for. We're asking for seed money from the town of Sturbridge, petition for warrant was executed, sitting at the town hall. So basically now what I'm looking for is your understanding and support, perhaps in a letter, to arm me going before the town managers to say, well, you know, this is what we're looking for. And try to get the town of Sturbridge on board so that we can apply for the grant. A grant, if awarded, a 319 grant is a 60-40 thing. State 60%, other funds or matching things in kind or whatever, the whole list is 40% from the towns, residents, bake sales, whatever we can do to come up with, I think, minimum of, I forgot, you might remember the proposal, I have it here, but the minimum of a $250,000 tab for the alum treatment. Then that goes 60-40. We're asking $55,000 from Sturbridge. We'll try to get more from Brookfield and East Brookfield. Maybe some from the Y Camp. And I'm sure bake sales and residents and whatever will try to make up the rest. Okay, you're being very quiet.
We're very polite.
Okay.
We're letting you speak.
All right. I don't know where to take it from here. I don't know if there's questions.
I'm sure there are.
Okay, shoot.
Well, Mr. Chairman's running the show, so.
Paul, you got any?
No, I haven't really had a chance to look at it. I haven't.
Yeah.
You want to start with Becky?
Start with Becky.
Excuse me.
What you got, Becky?
So, I mean, I went through and read everything, tried to do some research. I mean, it seems like there's some conflicting literature. There's, you know, pros and cons for it. There could be potential impacts. There's positive impacts. I didn't have a lot of time to really do a lot of the research for that. Therefore, I mean, I tried to reach out to Fish and Wildlife staff to get a little feedback from them, to see where they stand with it, because I'm sure they've been seeing it across the state. I didn't receive anything from them. They would have to review this, as it is priority habitat for a state-listed plant. So I mean, I would like to hear what the experts kind of have to say for it in Massachusetts. At this time, I mean, I think that, you know, we're not really maybe in a position to take a stance of support or not supporting it, and really need to fall back on some of the experts to give that guidance, so.
Okay, so, probably the expert would be Mass DEP in this particular case. I mean, they are, and we're, those are the people to whom we are going to for the 319 grant.
Right. Talk to Malcolm Harper. He's the head of that program.
Right.
In the Worcester office.
Right. And our consultant, Carl Nielsen, is very familiar with the Mass DEP. Spends good time there, I guess, as well as the state of Rhode Island, and he splits his time between Rhode Island and Massachusetts. ESS is a
Another person.
Carl Nielsen.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the
He's a resident from here.
well, his father is a resident from here, right?
Right.
Okay, anyway.
And actually, Carl, as a boy, grew up on South Pond, so he has a kind of a vested interest. Basically, the details and the chemistries are in the report. South Pond is particularly amenable to very positively respond to an alum treatment because of not just depth, but because of some chemistry in South Pond, namely iron. But South Pond has mucho iron in it, in the water.
It's also a slow recharge.
Very slow recharge. 18 months?
Typically.
So basically, the water is so deep in South Pond. Deep hole is 72 feet. 50 to 100 years of abuse with regard to nutrient outflow from particularly the Spencer watershed. You know, if you read the NIPTs, we're down to, we're happy to be down to calling for 0.2 milligrams per mil output on their phosphorus. It should have been that for a long time. The upgrade is going to be calling for 0.2 milligrams per mil, per liter. The output is going to be calling for 0.2 milligrams per liter. And once the plant is completely tuned, probably capable of 0.1 milligrams per liter. We even extended the season to include April now for critical early water nutrients. What else do I want to say about that? Yes. If you go back to 1980, which was sort of just the beginnings of Spencer developing something that could be admirably called a wastewater treatment plant, they were putting through 5 milligrams, so 25 times the amount of phosphorus. When you multiply that over a number of years, say 50 or 100, you can see why there's black muck on the bottom of South Pond. So all that phosphorus was leaching in for many, many years. And the black muck is the reduced form of iron in an organic composite. When it is so low in the water column, it is totally anoxic, hence black iron reduced. So that's the basic chemistry, and that's the basic good target for alum to do a really good job at precipitating the water column, the phosphorus in the water, in the deep water column, to stay on the bottom, so that when it recycles, primarily twice a year, due to thermal convection, the phosphorus won't have a chance to come up because it's not soluble. And that will have a really positive effect directly on the algae production in South Pond.
You have comments, questions? Or you wanna?
Are you?
I'm done.
Yeah.
You,
Paul was all set?
you have no comments? Is that what you said?
I said I hadn't really read it, so I
Yeah.
have no comment.
All right, there are numerous ponds, by the way, that are currently, either recently have been or are currently being treated with alum. Indian Lake and Worcester, several other places in that area. Project was in right out of Providence, Rhode Island, another lake. A common treatment for reservoirs, and the success of the treatment has everything to do with the chemistry of the pond. And South Pond is just in a particularly good position to benefit from it. It's on the balance sheet, as you've seen, corrected in the ESS report, and then brought over to the TMDL phosphorus balances and correcting that table. Right now, the phosphorus in the water column being recycled and creating the algae, the major source in South Pond is the pond itself, is the deep phosphorus in the pond. So correcting that will do a tremendous amount, and will have a chance to bring us into alignment for what the original TMDL was calling for, to keep that phosphorus down to a level that will keep the water quality pristine for, again, probably a 10 to 15 year period. And many reservoirs, of course, are treated regularly.
What do you do after that 10 to 15 year period?
You can do it again.
Treat it again.
Treat it again.
Yeah.
When did
without without the phosphorus input over the next 10 or 15 years, without the phosphorus input, we might never ever have to treat it again, because the phosphorus input is going to go down.
Well, when did the plant open? The Spencer plant, when did it open?
There was some kind of facility they had for sewerage in Spencer, I'm sure, in the 1930s. There was an attempt at I think, private company, Don?
It was a private operation, I think, until sometime late 50s.
Yeah. And even then, of course, it was this advanced collection swale, you might call it. Right? Yeah. Because that's what it was.
Yeah, until a big rainfall.
Probably a big
Yeah,
lagoon.
and basically, so it has evolved. It has been upgraded a few times, and in particular, I think the effort was in the late 70s or early 80s when there was I think, a change in management as well as an upgrade, and they actually started to treat nutrient load. And that gave some consideration to anything like BOD and dissolved oxygen and nitrogen and phosphorus. And before that time, like I said, I have documentation in 1978, I think. They were estimating that the throughput was 5 milligrams per liter of phosphorus. And so you can imagine what it was before that time. I mean, it was at least that. The population of Spencer has not changed for a lot of years.
Well, I looked at aluminum sulfate, and I called some people at Boston University and asked them to give me an update on what they thought. And they didn't have all the positives that you have. In fact, they had some questions about the aquatic life as far as toxicity is concerned. They didn't feel, they didn't know the lake, obviously, because I was just calling with questions. But they didn't give me a great feeling that by doing this, that they felt that it would be a short-term solution. And they felt that there would be, they couldn't be specific, but they felt that there would be negative effects as a result of the encapsulation of aluminum sulfate on the bottom of the lake.
Right. All right, so
And
then again, well, go ahead.
And the other, it concerns me that that now with the DEP, we've been doing it since 1980, and now we've got it right as far as the sewer treatment is concerned. I don't know. I am not comfortable with, at this point in my learning curve, to support this. In the form of a letter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's premature to support that for this kind of money, to go to the town and ask them for this. The TMDL indicated that there was a significant amount of reduction from non-point sources was required to meet the water quality of the pond. And I mentioned this the first time you came before us. I said, you better have something that was, see, I retired from there 10 years ago. So it had to have been 15 years ago that Mark Mattson at DWM wrote the TMDL. And there was a significant amount of non-point source reduction. I'm repeating myself. And what I would want to see was what's been done, because you could sequester the phosphorus that's in the sediment, and the 0.2 is, that's probably not bad for that treatment plant. They'll get it down to 0.1 eventually.
Yeah.
EPA would like to see it lower than that. It is their permit. My point, to not ramble, is that lawns, education of the people that live on the lake, reductions of wherever of the non-point source phosphorus, you would have to have that in hand. It's a scientific debate. I mean, alum treatment is very common. So that's another part of it that each of us would have to be comfortable reading the literature, which I think there's a shortcut to that. But that issue aside, to say that we're going to hang our hat on the alum treatment to reduce or remove the phosphorus problem in the absence of something about the non-point sources, and I can't remember 15 years ago what that percentage was, but it'll be real simple for me to look that up. I call Mark Mattson. I could talk to Rick McVoy. I'm going to see him in a couple of days. He used to run the Clean Lakes program there at DEP, and just kind of get a feel from him. He's a PhD limnologist, which means he studies lakes, and get a read on the scientific aspect of it. That's only one piece of it.
Yeah.
And I'd want to hear Mark Mattson tell me that that this plus whatever you're gonna tell us about what you've reduced over the last, I'm gonna say 15 years, it might have been more than that.
Yeah, well, right.
So there's two issues.
Yeah.
It's actually a third issue too. Well, maybe more than a
Well, I
third.
addressed two of them.
Right. First of all, this is way above our pay grade. But with the research that I've done just in the last 2 weeks, since you made us aware of the possibility of this coming up, several studies have indicated that the longevity promises have not been acquired on a routine basis. They're not sure why, but typically a 2 to 3 year repeat is often necessary, not a 10 to 12. Well, now you're talking about real bucks. Secondarily, there has been no study, none that I could find, none that I could find a title about, that talked about the impact of the alum on the dinoflagellate structure of the water column. And without that, fish have no food in their early start. You eliminate that part of the entire process, I'd be worried to death about it. Lastly, yes, it works as a coagulant. We know that really well because most cities and towns use it in order to eliminate the solids that don't get pulled out by their screening process. So we all are affected by it. It's in our regular drinking water if you drink town water. What we don't know is what happens with that buildup of phosphates that are in, as you explained it, sand at the bottom. Because in fact, it does coalesce. It does make a covering on the bottom. What is the net effect on potential plant life? What is the net effect upon the worm structure that is required in order to continually aerate the soils to make the muck not quite as mucky? None of those things have been investigated. And, you know, you dovetail that with the studies that have just been completed with the Marianas Trench deal, and they find that the minuscule amounts of plastic that is making it down into the deepest ravine that we have in the Pacific Ocean is killing individual celled and multi-celled organisms at that level.
Yeah, microplastics.
Yeah. And I don't see how we can separate those two issues. Because in fact, we don't know the net effect of the alum once it has already done its chemical thing and taken out the iron and taken out the other materials that it's required to be able to make the sand that goes on the bottom, and what its net effect is on the fish populations as a result of reducing their food source. So these are all serious questions, to say nothing about the sum of money which will probably cause our Board of Selectmen to pass out.
That was my concern, is do you really think you're gonna be able to get the kind of money that's gonna take to do this project? And then, once you've got that, and once you put this thing in place, assuming that happens, you don't know, as was said before, you don't know how long this is gonna last, and so you may have to wind up raising that same amount of money 2, 3, 5 years later. Where is all of this money gonna come from? I mean, I really don't see bake sales and whatever other little things you're talking about being able to raise $250,000. I mean, I just don't think that at this point, based on the fact that we don't have the kind of knowledge that we need, I just don't see that it's financially possible, even if it was scientifically possible, which is still in question. And so in a way, I think it would be real hard for this body to support something which is both, to me, both scientifically and financially questionable.
Steve?
I agree with everything that's been said. I have nothing to add.
Oh, come on, you can pile on.
Well, I haven't had
affect
time, I haven't had time to do the research, so I appreciate the efforts that you guys have made to look at this. And I had intended to, but, yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
So I guess we will not be giving you a recommendation to go forward to the selectmen. Is that, are we in agreement on that? That's what we're really asking here, right, is for
yeah.
a recommendation to go forward to our selectmen that they consider this.
I think before, that I'd want to see, one, the grant that came out of DEP.
Yeah, that's the chicken and egg, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we need support to apply for the grant.
But I don't think that we have to consider this the end of it, it's just, this is a point in time.
Right.
But is there any problem with us not sending a letter of support, Doug, and you still going before the Board of Selectmen to see what they have to say? To see what
No,
kinds of
no,
concerns they have?
I don't have a particular problem with that. I mean, we need a host town to even submit the grant.
Yeah, and we have more homes on South Pond than any of the surrounding towns.
I think we could
Yes,
say.
yeah,
and I think-
55% of the addresses and about 400,000 a year in taxes.
I think that we could support that there is a problem on the pond, and that we would support that, that problem get addressed.
Oh, that's good.
And, and let the scientists that are responsible for that, the permit that would have to be issued, that's gonna come from
We
the
could
state.
list the number of ponds that have the same bright green algae, if you'd like, and rivers that we
It's
have.
actually, yeah.
Well, yeah,
In the whole,
right.
not the only pond.
Right, but I'm just
Well,
saying.
yeah, but alum is only relevant to ponds like South Pond. You need a deep pond,
Right.
and we'll be treating under 55 feet only to avoid any possibility of mollusk problems or anything like that. This is an anoxic zone
Yeah,
that we're treating. It's an anoxic zone.
it's way too deep.
It's way too deep.
I think that we know that there's a problem with cyanobacters in that pond, in that lake, whatever that thing is. And, and we can say, we're familiar with that. I mean, Dave Mitchell been doing that study forever, and I think that's what we can do, is say, yeah, we recognize there's a problem, we'd like to see something done. This august board, as intelligent as we are.
Right. And then I encourage you to read or reread the ESS report. Carl Nielsen, who is a limnologist, by the way.
I actually had limnologist after my name for many years. I am a
okay.
trained aquatic ecologist, and I know all about this.
Yeah. And in any case, his efforts on the analysis do a really good job at addressing the TMDL. And if you couple them and read them side by side, you'll see that he has effectively amended the TMDL. And all of the non-point balance are in those tables, and they're pretty well addressed. But again, reread it, I
Well,
encourage you.
yeah,
All right, we're gonna have to.
yeah, I agree.
Doug, what's the date again that you're going in front of the Board of Selectmen? I know you told me an email, but I don't
I
have
have
it.
no idea.
That's all right, I'll go back to the
They say
email.
maybe early May.
Okay.
At least I've got the petition in, and they said, they'll call me. Whatever that.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right, thanks.
You have their number on speed dial?
You can call me anytime.
Well, you might wanna ask to be put on one of their agendas just to have a discussion about that coming up. That might be useful for you, especially with your time frame. So.
Okay. And I believe we're targeting, I think it's a June submission on the 319s.
But if you're talking about putting something on the warrant, which you mentioned, you've got to have a number. And so before you could have that number, you've got to know what the grant is going to cover of that 250,000.
Yeah, okay, so I did that arithmetic, and that's why I'm asking Sturbridge for 55,000. Right, and that was in the petition that I
That you
forwarded to you.
gave them.
I would also ask Malcolm if one project can have several host towns for their particular part of the watershed. and divvy that up and show something that, other than us being the host, meaning we've got to come up with some money. So just
Yeah.
something to think about when you talk to him again.
All right, I wanna shut it down.
Yeah, that's good. I agree.
All right, we're gonna leave it as what we said. We're not comfortable in supporting the letter at this point in time. You can come back anytime.
But okay, and particularly, I would just, like perhaps entertain a letter of just recognition of the problem. I mean,
Yes.
We can certainly do that.
We can do that.
The Lake Association, we should
Yeah.
put that together.
okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Doug.
All right, what's next?
Pine Lake,
All right, Pine Lake it is. Gentlemen?
last in the room. Not last in the agenda, but last in the room.
8:30. I didn't think we'd last this long. It's all your fault.
Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well. My name is Philip Moreau. I'm the managing member of Pine Lake RV Resort and Cottages. We originally had scheduled and docketed this meeting to discuss a wall that was going to be put along an area of our property known as Lakeshore Drive, upon a site visit by the commission, or many members of the commission, the situation accelerated into an enforcement order, and I have been working, and that was handed down just last Thursday. And I have been working with Mr. Brissett of Summit Engineering, and particularly Scott Morrison of Ecotech, to cobble together a response to the enforcement order. At 4:57 this afternoon, I got, after having worked with Scott most of the morning, I got an email from Scott, and I believe Mr. Brissett was also copied on it, that said, "I left work early with an awful stomach bug and will not be able to make it tonight. Sorry, my apologies." Scott Morrison is a key player in guiding me as our primary consultant in dealing with the Conservation Commission. And given his unexpected absence from tonight's meeting, I think it would be most, and given the fact that the plan that we did submit this afternoon, that included Scott's remediation efforts, and the plan that Mr. Brissett has put together that included a detailed analysis of what was and what is and what has happened at our property, and that was just given to you for review this afternoon. There seems to be a confluence of events here that would dictate a continuance would be prudent. So I would respectfully request tonight, as much as I'm concerned about this issue, as much as I am totally stressed out by it and disappointed by it, I think a continuance makes the most sense in this situation, so that Scott Morrison, my lead guy, can be here to help with the presentation as to what can transpire.
We'll leave
Well,
that. Okay.
Before we decide on a continuation, I looked at the site today with you, and the hillside, and as I was riding along, I was thinking of the conversations that I had with you down along that lower road, how carefully they were gonna take those cabins out, and there wouldn't be any problem with the trees that were there, and so forth and so on. And I went down there, and from what I saw, it was just bulldozed. The entire area was bulldozed, and the road was widened, and you ignored the plan that you had completely. Completely, you ignored it. I don't know if it's, it doesn't matter to me whether it's a technique or a strategy on your part, or how you operate the multi-number of that you say you have around the world, you know, how if you treat the planning, the boards in those towns like this, then that's not gonna happen here. I'm perfectly willing to give you a continuation, but you sure as hell better come back with a new plan. And you better listen to some people around you as far as what that's got to include, because I'm totally, totally dissatisfied with what's down there. And see no reason why, you know, we had a really positive program going. It was open the kimono bullshit, excuse my language. But everything was fine, and you walked away and did what the hell you wanted. I don't see it any other way than that, and I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but you're gonna have to remediate that big time. And if you come in with, if we give you an extension and you come in, it better be a plan that corrects what you've done. That's my position. Anybody else want to say anything?
Said it all, as far as I'm concerned.
Extension to the next meeting?
I just want to ask first that, since I issued this on your
Okay.
behalf.
Okay, all right. Yep, go ahead.
That you guys ratify the enforcement order at this meeting.
Yep. Sure.
Need to vote on that.
Yep.
Right. Take a vote?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Vote. Favor? Okay, bring it down and sign it. Want us to sign it?
No, I already issued it.
Okay,
and
all right.
Signed it,
Okay.
but I just need you to ratify it at the next public
Right,
hearing.
that's the way it works.
So, Steve, what do you think? Continuation?
Yeah, I'm fine with a continuation. I just want to make it clear that there's a cease and desist for any activity within the buffer zone. And, yeah, is this plan, is this supposed to be the mitigation plan based on?
Yes, from Scott, in conjunction with the plans that I printed out. I got some half-size scales that I printed out for you folks.
'Cause-
It's preliminary, it's quick. It addresses some of the points in the enforcement order as far as what was proposed, what we think it's gonna be. It's kinda outlined in here and outlined in Scott's narrative. Pages 3 and 4, I think, address the additional planting requirements that he felt was necessary to remediate what was done. Okay. I guess.
Well, if we're gonna go to the next, if we're gonna have a continuation, we may as well have a continuation.
Okay.
Do you wanna issue these for a review or anything, or?
We might as well have him.
Yep,
He's
may as
got
well
him.
have
Oh,
them.
yeah. Okay.
Right,
More
take him to
information
look at
for
it.
us.
All right, I'll give them to Becky.
Yeah, and hopefully with this plan, I'd get some feedback as to what else needs to be done.
So, just one thing I want to add too is that, I mean, the plans that, thank you, the plans that we had didn't include all of the trees in those areas. We know all the trees weren't delineated on there. So just, one comment is, I think it says 19 trees in the lower area or something like that. When you look at the aerial photos, and I think you can see that when I asked you to overlay the plan on that, I mean, there's a lot more trees that were taken out in that area and the upper area. I think I went back and looked at Joe Kowalski's report, and just the upper area, he said he looked at an area 375 feet by 62 feet or something like that, that Meadow Lane area. I think he called out it was 181 trees, 4-inch diameter and up. Right, and I mean, I went out there today and just.
Right, so I did make a notation on there. So when we came back to you in August 8th, that plan set, we had delineated all the trees that I had flagged in the field for the sidewalks, that these were the ones we were taking down. Those were shown in that Meadow Lane area. I did a recount of those, and there's 60 of them on that plan that we proposed to cut down. And all I'm saying is if you take the number that you had of 180, you subtract the 60 there should have been 120. there's about 110 trees left up there on top of that slope.
Well, I think there's 110 trees in the whole
It's all I got to
area.
offer. I mean, I have nothing else other than that. You take 180 minus 60, leaves you 110. Now, I think the real disturbance, when you're clearing the backside of that hill and you're not looking through this canopy anymore, that becomes the real issue, you know? And I think, you know, I'll say that on the site walks, I was asked about the trees that were overleaning those sites. I said the ones that were uprooted, we really can't put the dirt back. They gotta come out. Now, I think
In the
the
embankment
overcutting
restoration.
that may have occurred are on the little fingers that were in between, but by the time you took those, uprooted plants out, trees out, there was very few left. And I think that's what Dan had relayed to me too, and that's why they decided that if we're gonna do this, we're gonna take those fingers out, you know? And I mean, I wasn't part of the discussion, I can't testify that that's what it was, because I
Well, we
really
were all
knew
part of the
nothing
discussion
about
when we were talking about those cabins being removed, and how carefully they could be removed, and how they could be salvaged, and,
And the truth is, they were.
yeah.
They
and-
removed every
but-
one of them without, I
but-
think they tore the top.
And then they just took a bulldozer and went through the whole area.
Yeah, and they went through all those, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing.
I don't remember him telling me that he was gonna take a bulldozer and go through the whole area.
He didn't, and I didn't.
Okay. And it's within our jurisdiction.
Correct.
Okay. So it's in violation, and you guys are coming back in 2 weeks to discuss
You
it.
gotta have a vote on it, Ed.
Yep. All in favor? Continuation? Yep. Thank you. All right. How the kids doing? Good, yeah. You got a senior this year?
He's a junior. Got one
Junior?
more to go.
Yeah.
Just finished IQP, got FQP next year, so.
All right.
Yep. Thanks, Ed.
Yep.
Good night. All right.
What's next?
All right. Guess we can talk about Mass DOT Quinnebog River. We had that on our agenda for today. Bill did not show up, nor any other representative from Mass DOT.
We also have to make sure we talk about the playground. The trees that were taken down.
Oh, yeah,
Have a good night.
that may be outside of our jurisdiction. It's the 200-foot.
No, because we've got the swimming pool right there.
Do you want to have further discussion? We can. It wasn't a
No,
public hearing.
we,
Okay.
yeah.
So we should enforce an order in Mass DOT for the Quinnebog River drainage pipe. After our site visit
Yeah.
a week ago, I have not heard from them about anything related to this. I did remind them that we had this on our agenda, because we did ask them in this to come today to this meeting. We did encourage them to come to our last meeting, which he did. We did talk about it. We had the site visit. I mean, we did ask him in this to come to this meeting.
Have they issued any correspondence to us stating that they feel like they know?
No, just what's been verbally said, that they don't think it's their pipe, and that's it. And then as far, when I was out
It goes
there,
under their road, but it's not their pipe.
right, well, it's on private property, and they don't have an easement for it, but it's my understanding that they probably didn't have a lot of easements
But
back
it's
then.
coming out of,
Their, yes,
It-
their
it-
catch
coming out of the
basin.
road.
And
Yep.
their explanation when we did the site visit
Yeah.
was that he felt that it was intended to be infiltrated, I guess, at the point where it comes off the road. I don't quite understand that.
I don't either, because the other one
And-
doesn't.
And if you look at the structure where all the pipes meet, that, I mean, I don't see that the private landowner tied all of these drains in from the road and then put the pipe, you know, out to the river.
Yeah.
DOT must have done that at some point. It all looks like it was done at the same time.
They're saying because it was perforated, that it probably wasn't theirs. They wouldn't have used a perforated pipe.
Yeah, but it was
My response to
interesting.
that is that they used whatever pipe happened to be laying around. Hey, we got this extra pipe and.
Exactly.
that's- you know?
And if it infiltrated something, then good.
Right.
But the point is we kept repeating and making sure that we all were looking at it. There's the storm drain,
here's a pipe coming into this box. And regardless of other pipes that are coming in, there's a pipe, and then it continues, and that's all broken up and causing problems. It's all in a straight line. And we made sure that he understood, okay, this is confusing, it's confounding, it's not confusing, with all these other pipes. There's your drain, here's a pipe, there's a pipe, it's all yours. So he can say, he's throwing a red herring in. He said, why are these other pipes? I don't understand them. Doesn't make any difference.
And he was saying too that, he was out there during a storm event, no water was coming out of it. And what we noticed in the road, I mean, that the whole catch basin is probably clogged.
Yeah.
But we know it's going down that driveway on 9 Holland.
Right.
Top of the catch basin, you can't even see, and it just needs to be cleaned out. And I asked him on Friday, I said, hey, do you guys ever get someone out there to clean that out? Which maybe it's
I'm not
almost
sure
better
we
it's
wanna
not.
do that,
Exactly, I agree, at this time, and he said they hadn't.
Yeah,
But
we
right.
need to fix the problem before we
We
start
start
letting
directing
water through
water.
there.
No.
And I
But
wanna
it-
know why there's no water coming from that cement, pipe.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Under
The
the
road?
road. I don't understand that
No.
either.
Yeah.
That may be clogged too. I think we need to understand where that's coming from. Doesn't matter from the perspective of this needs to be fixed and
Yeah.
it should be DOT because they're the main contributor to that,
Yeah.
to the water.
And I think that's a lot of the erosion issues we have at the adjacent property that resulted in
Right.
issues there too.
Well, let me go back to an old barnacle saw. Can the man produce a plan other than a 1923 plan?
I've asked.
Right, he cannot. That's one of the reasons we keep asking him to make a plan about what they're doing on Cedar Lake.
I
But
would,
absent a plan, that pipe is his.
that road has been worked on since 1923.
You think?
But not with a plan. It's being worked on.
No, it was worked on with a plan since 1923.
Have you seen the piles of pipes that are at the Mass Turnpike turnoff? They're sitting right on Route 20.
Yeah.
When you go past it, going into town, or go past it, going out of town, you go by a mass of pipes. You think there's a plan for that crap? Not a bet. What they're doing is they're putting larger pipes in to handle more water. Really good thing, because they're replacing 70-year-old pipes made out of galvanized metal, which were guaranteed for 25 years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
and
But
that's
when they-
75 years ago.
But then, when they redid Route 20, they had a plan.
That's right.
1923.
No.
No, they're
They had a plan.
Sure.
Since I've been in town, when they put in all the sidewalks and moved all the.
But he's not
telephone
bringing
poles.
that into us.
What?
He's not bringing that into
That
us.
plan has that pipe on it.
So I think
And I would say, that's what I would do. I would send a follow-up and say, you told us that the only plan that the state has for Route 20 is the 1923 plan. We don't believe that.
But I
Oh,
think
you
too,
can couch it in different
What?
words.
No, I like.
Yeah, she knows.
He did couch it in
What?
different words. He'd say, that's bullshit.
I quoted the president.
Why not?
By the way, have you passed this by, Gene? Remember when they did the plan 3 years ago, you weren't here, but they did a plan 3 years ago to revitalize some of the downtown area, including the sidewalks? They went through a whole group of committee meetings, et cetera. I wonder if they don't have one of the DEP plan, one of the transportation plans.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if we could show him a plan?
Yeah.
Here's one of his plans that shows the
Exactly,
drainage
that's
plan.
my point. And
so I'll
you-
check with Jean, but I think we need to follow up with them and send them
Oh, yeah.
something because they didn't come to our meeting.
Well, I think we
the
should
last
follow up with
one-
them and tell them that,
Exactly, we need
an
something.
answer that you only have a 1923 plan is
Yep.
unacceptable. The pipe goes under the road, it has to be theirs.
Yep, but what do we want too? We don't want them to put another pipe there and be a point source discharge into the Quinnebog, but it's private property right there. They don't have an easement. I haven't contacted that landowner because I've been trying to figure out this issue with DOT
You
here.
don't have anything to contact a landowner about. You have no facts.
Well, what
Might need
she's
to let
saying
them-
is you can't let it be a pipe. There's gotta be some treatment by
Right.
law, and it would be
Right.
some sort of a detention,
Okay.
retention, something pond. Contact the owner and say, this thing's shaping
Who's the
up,
owner?
like we might wanna
The
put something.
Blackington building owns that.
Yeah.
They came in for a parking lot for you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
before.
I don't-
I mean, I don't think they can use that property over
It's not
there.
buildable, yeah. I
Right,
don't
it's not
think-
buildable, but
At the time that Jerry Paquin was part owner of the mill, or was the manager of the mill, he also owned the Blackington building, and the land was contiguous.
Yeah, right.
So that's roughly the break.
Well, I agree that I think we need
I can't remember his last
Yeah,
name.
we need a drainage basin
O'Connell.
or an infiltration
Improvement.
basin or something there.
Yeah.
And in fact, that feeds right into what Bill told us, that it was originally intended to just infiltrate into the ground there. So that's what if that's what they intended, then that's what should be happening. And that's
Right.
not what's happening. So,
That's a really small hole for that huge road. Maybe in 1925 it was
Yeah.
different, but.
Those were pretty little holes. All right, let's keep
All
going.
right, well, I'll draft something for that, so that's that one.
All right.
All right, so you're right, to go back, so I have an email from him where he does state that he doesn't believe that it's his. He's investigated it, but otherwise I have not had anything else from him, and that was before our site visit.
And the highway department doesn't have any, DPW doesn't have any plans, pipes and so on in this town? Seems like they would have something that would.
I did bring that up. I was gonna tell you about this afterwards. I met with the new TPW director and went over a whole bunch of things. That was one of the things I did bring up because Mass DOT did say, oh, it might be the town's stormwater in here too. So I did bring that up to him, that's something we might be having to work on together. But I can check with them about those plans, but pretty sure it's state. 2 certificates of compliance. One is a partial. This is for 28 Mountain Brook Road. This was for the DPW project where they redid all the roads down there. So this is a partial for just this individual property. The only work was when they paved the road down there. So I did go by, I didn't notice any, I was looking at the sites and see, make sure there's no issues on the properties. So this is a partial to release that individual property.
Great.
Please and thank you. Next one is 98 Gladding Lane. We were talking about this property with Mr. Soper earlier. When we had gone out there, there was 2 open orders of conditions. Our last meeting, we closed out the septic system orders of conditions. This is the garage addition. Jalbert Engineering did that, so they submitted the request for certificate. We did go out there, looked at the plans. The garage was built as shown. Would ask that you sign this as a complete with there was no ongoing conditions for the garage.
Okay. Great.
I liked it better when this was Thursday.
It can be on
I
Thursday.
had only one more day to work, then I had the weekend.
I actually like it better Tuesdays.
We can go back to Thursdays.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No, it's fine.
I didn't
I
mean it
actually
that
liked
way.
it when I.
It was a joke on, it was
No
about,
way.
then I had the next day, and then I was off for the weekend.
Oh.
I figured that was a joke, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah. I gotta work 3 more days.
Like, what does he do in his free time? I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna cross that off. We have a special use permit application. It's kind of asking for a revision to the one we issued. This is that Tinker Garden, that private organization that asked us to use, first they asked for Heinz, but now they're using Lead Mine. Their original application asked for some specific dates just in February and March. They've really been enjoying the property and would like to ask for some additional dates to go down there and use it. So they're just parking at the one OSV parking lot, which is a large parking lot. They've been going in. This is where they're, Steve, I don't know if you were here for this meeting. It's a private organization. They're connecting kids with nature, so it's different age groups. Some are really young toddlers they're bringing out, up until like 5 or 6 year olds, I think, kind of connecting them to nature, doing different lead walks. They're not really doing anything, they don't have barbecues or anything like that down there. It's just more kind of exploring nature. So they asked to use the property. They're asking for some
Say those liars.
revised dates. Where's my sticky? There it is. So they'd like to continue from the end of March, which was they're approved to, through the end of June. So this would be on Mondays and Sundays, And there's two different time periods they're asking on those days. 9:30 to 10:45, there's a 3:45 to 5. I mean, they're small sessions, they're just like an hour and 15 minutes. It's less than 12 in a group, so it's about, like 10 to 12 cars potentially at the most being there. So they'd like to ask for permission to continue these lead walks down there. They did give us, insurance.
Not a chance. I'm not interested in doing it, are you?
Give us the thing, we'll let us sign
Oh,
it.
you don't need to sign it, well, you gotta vote on it.
Just need to vote on it.
You're pretty
All
much
right.
sure that we're gonna approve this.
Becky,
I'm just giving you all the information, so
appreciate it.
when it
No,
comes
that was
around
good.
and I didn't say something, cause I got cut off.
There you
Oh,
go.
my God. Yeah.
Becky, have you ever mentioned to her the Fairy Village at Heinz Farm?
No, I didn't.
Because the kids at that age group would probably really enjoy that for
Would.
one of their trips.
We saw that.
Yeah, we saw it.
It is so cute.
And it's gonna be better,
Is it?
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
You gotta go out there and.
They're putting up, no, they're, excuse me.
Two little girls.
They're actually putting up fence posts, and they're gonna put up some,
It's Northern California. They're
jute
lost in the
or
wilderness
hemp
for 44
in order
hours.
to isolate the area so people will focus more on what the size is. It also will keep the kids from going up the hill, because they're gonna put it across the bottom of the hill. But what it will do is define the area better. But I would think for that age group, it'd be ideal.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good.
Great place.
Okie dokie. Let's move on here. So in your packet, you have some email correspondence in regards to the Allard case. This is South Shore Road. This has been an ongoing issue. Gary Allard versus David Barnacle.
Whoopee, that would be me.
So
In
I
the
believe I
court
forwarded you
again.
both of these.
Yeah, we,
Yeah, but I just wanted to put it on here and just let you know, the latest one, which was the KP Law letter, I don't think you saw this. This came in February 15th.
Oh,
They,
from the verdict?
yep, so they had a final judgment. The case against, all counts against Conservation Board of Health were dismissed. The Allards were issued to abate the nuisance caused by the drainage swale.
Yeah, but there is a new surprise in here,
What's it?
next to the bottom sentence. As such, the commission should expect to receive a new
Exactly.
notice of intent.
Yep, and I didn't know if that was something that was discussed before or not, but right, we'll have to keep track of this, as we
Yes.
should be expecting
Yes,
something.
because if we don't get it, we may have to jostle Mr. Allen in order to receive it. But part of the court case was specifically to make sure that there was an order of conditions on file to make sure that maintenance was properly taken care of.
Okay. And now you guys, I pulled out this file, it's like this big, so I will start going through that as time allows.
Oh, it's boring.
For some of, yeah, no, I'm sure, some of the history, but if you have a recollection, can provide just like a little summary to me, that would be really useful.
Sure.
Just the highlights, what I need to know, in case I get a call from them about what they need to be doing, exactly, what we're kind of
I
looking
can
for
give you a
there.
brief summary, not right now.
Okay, thank you.
Are you volunteering to go rattle his cage?
Absolutely.
I know you'll have to.
Having done it several
I wanna
times.
go home.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cross that one off.
Yeah.
173 Main Street drainage. This is the property adjacent to 179 Main Street here. We went back out at our next site visit. After we originally went out there to look at the 179, we noticed some issues with the stream, the intermittent stream over there, and drainage coming off 173. Pulled out the file, looked at it. We went back out there on our site visit, take a look at the drainage structure, what's going on out there. I've been doing a little investigating because.
Did you
so-
take some pictures, Becky?
Oh, yes. Yep. All right. Show you these. So
Snoop Dogg.
some of these are my original ones, but these are from when we were just out there. All right. So this right here is not our stream bed. This is what is coming out of this site here. Now, I went back and pulled out the plans for this project, which I'll show you a couple. Steve's seen them. There was always a scour issue here because there's a Mass DOT pipe. Yep, so there's a scour issue that was here. I don't know how bad it was before.
Yeah, but hang on to that picture, because that's not scour that you're seeing. That's serious erosion.
All right, this is where our intermittent stream comes in right here, see?
Yep.
down here, and then here's where that channel comes down.
Yep.
Now, if you're looking down, this is where the stream comes in somewhere, I think maybe here, I don't know, right here, yeah,
Yep.
here. You look down, look at the banks here. This is what was our stream. See the banks here,
That
how
is
undercut there? And it's
incredible.
fairly recent, it looks like. It's really bad. That's blurry, you can't see it.
Becky, would you say in some places, or if you or Ed could guess, 18 inches deep?
Oh,
Oh, more than
probably
that.
almost as tall as me. I wasn't about to go down in there and grab onto some of
That's
those
why I
roots,
said 18
but,
inches tall.
Hardy hard.
but yeah, it was really bad. And then even here, you can see all the washout, the gravel that's, traveled down there.
Undercut trees.
Yeah, oh, bad. Little, washout here. And so I contacted the property owners there. They let us go on their property. They've been there since about the tornado. So they've, we're probably there around the time this went in, after this went in, I think. 'Cause
Yeah.
this went in and,
Yeah, a few years after it
Yeah,
went
tornado
in.
was like 2011. So they've never had, I was asking, because there's a pipe right at Blueberry Lane right there. Ever have water wash out onto your driveway or on the road? They haven't noticed that, but they've noticed the scour on the banks over time.
Where is all this
Where's it coming from?
material going to? That's,
Quinnebog.
To the Quinnebog. So this goes down, I could put an aerial up. So it goes down, intermittent stream goes behind that red house on Farquhar, the farm.
Yeah.
There's a wetland back there.
Sardi.
Yeah, that crosses the street, goes right into the Quinnebog. So it's probably getting deposited in that wetland down there, mostly, but
Yeah, she's on the open space committee with.
yeah.
She was supposed to come tonight.
Supposed to come tonight.
So. Where am I? Oh, the driveway's right here, so, yeah.
Something else has happened here, guys, because when we approved this project, David will remind you, they
Wasn't that bad.
wanted to put a car wash in,
Yes, they did.
right there.
Yep.
Which would be right next to it, and we wouldn't let them because of the stream, or the intermittent stream, as we called it at that time. But it really was nothing like that.
Right, so,
I don't know what's happened.
what it looks like to me is it looks like it's getting a tremendous amount of water from
Yep.
where that detention basin is, which looks
Behind the
way
building?
undersized, looks way
Yeah.
undersized to me. All that water's just rushing over, and that's what's really contributed. It's not that stream, it's
Yeah.
all the water
I can
coming.
show you the plan. So I went back through the file, looked at the information that was submitted from Burton Engineering on the stormwater. It was supposed to really reduce, or actually should have infiltrated most of the water in that basin. And I agree. I don't think that the stormwater system was designed correctly. So I just want to remind you too that the first time this project came around, it was denied. It was then approved. It was appealed by 10 petitioners. DEP issued a superseding orders of conditions. And then also they then issued a certificate of compliance for this with no ongoing
No
conditions
conditions.
for operation and maintenance, nor, also, they probably didn't really look at it because they would have seen it was an issue. So I'll show you the plan because there's actually supposed to be like a riprap overflow kind of area in one part of the basin, not there. So I think it's severely undersized and it's an extended dry basin. And also too, I don't know, I was looking at it and they're talking about different sub catchment areas where all the runoff from the roofs were supposed to be infiltrated. And you can see the gutters coming off that service station building going right into this too. So I think we need to find out why it's not functioning. And I did a little research too. Like, look right here. I could stand right here and that's over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that there's a picture that shows it.
Okay, wait, go back
Hold
one.
on. Oh.
Wait. Right there. Okay, so what I was saying is that, it's clear to me that the water's just rushing out of this,
Yeah.
Right.
and that's where this is all coming from.
I'm just
There's
trying to
actually-
find my other picture that I had of the pipes.
Got a picture of those two pipes?
Yeah, I just don't, I feel like I went through all these pictures, but they might be in a different folder.
So we've got to pull a plan on the gas station.
Oh, I have it. Where's my other pictures for the pipe?
And take a look at the catch basin in the back and see what,
An undersized catch basin for Burton Engineering in those days, not unheard of.
no.
Yeah.
Remember the
So-
battle we had with them at Wendy's? where we got them to enlarge it by 2 times.
yeah. You know,
All right,
while you're looking for that,
Well, I don't think I took them on my phone. I sent it to my email. I probably didn't download those ones, but in the basin, so if, I'll just explain it real quick as we look at it, because we got there and I was really perplexed because there was a pipe, so it flows in here and then it
Yeah.
overflows here.
Yeah.
There's not much, this is a very small hump,
That's only
if
3
anything.
feet.
Exactly, it's nothing. So it goes from here to here, and then there's like a there's a pipe that comes out, and it's a very small, Steve, how would you, it's like a foot high. So it's meant to be, as it fills up, it eventually will overflow into there and come out the pipe. There's a pipe with a straight shot out that goes into a riprap little
Where?
channel.
Where does it go? Show where it goes.
All right, so there's, the Mass DOT pipe comes out here.
Yeah.
And this is where the pipe comes out from here. Which
Yeah.
isn't very clear on here, but maybe it's on one of the other plans. We just scanned a couple plans quickly. This isn't here. This is just riprap here, which leads right into this. They were supposed to put,
That was supposed to be an overflow, right?
it is an overflow. This is an overflow for this, but it fills up and it flows right out. It's not functioning as an overflow.
The
It's
water's
not big
just
enough.
flowing right over the
Exactly.
bank, yeah.
It's not functioning.
Right.
So even though DEP issued a superseding orders of conditions for this, we still have jurisdiction because it's not working correctly. It's a violation of their orders. I think they need to, and I don't know too, so if they've done any of their operation and maintenance on any of this too. We also did observe some oil cans sitting back there, some big oil containers. They might be fully closed, but I also went back and was looking at the planting plan. I don't think there were supposed to be plants there. I mean, they didn't
Okay.
do what they needed to do.
now show them where those oil cans are in the little,
Like right here.
no,
Yeah.
right, they're right up against the building.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Right there.
Yeah, this was supposed to be all planted too. I have a planting plan. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there's
Sorry, I don't have those
probably-
other
Yeah,
pictures,
and that's
but
paved, isn't it?
there was supposed to be like a little pool, I'm getting the right word right now, right where the outfall for the Mass DOT pipe was. So it's
Right.
supposed to go in, kind of infiltrate, and then overflow that. It's just like a little riprap channel. It's not functioning in that sense at all. So it was designed wrong, or it was designed wrong on purpose. I don't know. It definitely doesn't.
Do we know what these things are?
I don't know if that's what's feeding in where the pipe is. Those just might
Or
be
bollards,
manholes.
so they're bollards there?
Seen this?
That's, yeah, it's right here. That's just, that's a downstream defender on one of them. But that's part of the storm water. So everything off the site is getting directed, that's where the pipe goes through. And that's,
So the pipe comes out here?
yep, and goes in. Yeah,
And
I'm
comes
sorry,
like
this one,
this.
I probably should have scanned this one. I didn't look at them all quickly, but,
Oh, I see.
yeah. So there's supposed to be like a plunge pool here almost.
Yeah.
But it's just like a riprap path that says, oh, follow the water this,
Yeah.
follow it this way. But this just is, it's not working. Water's coming in, it's going over here, and it's going right out, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before, this whole site wasn't paved. It was only paved about here, so at least water was flowing here, could infiltrate.
Yeah.
I mean, they said there was no change on this site, which I just think it was fudged, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, so
Okay.
it's a problem.
And that big part that's all chewed out, a very telling thing is that there are roots that are about this high, this close to the top of the bank, that are going across the stream, and there's 3 feet under it.
Oh, wow.
So you know they were under when it was a little intermittent stream.
Yeah.
They had to be under it, about like that, and you could picture an intermittent
Yeah,
stream and have those
unbelievable.
roots.
Well, so
And now there's like 3 feet under them,
Yeah.
so.
well, the question is, are we gonna require them, I mean, does that need to be filled in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna have to remediate.
That's remediation for sure.
Otherwise, all those trees are.
We
gonna
gotta take
die.
a site visit for us and take a look at it.
Well,
We just did.
I walked,
see it,
I walked the stream. I didn't go up and see the upper part.
Yeah.
But I saw everything down here.
And I'm
Becky
sorry I
and I
don't
went
have
up
those
the other
pictures.
day,
Maybe
all
I'll
the
save
way
them
up.
Yeah.
somewhere
Wow.
else. Right, it's, I don't know where I saved, sorry. I don't have those other pictures.
Well, how would you remediate that?
Phil,
First of all, well, yeah, but first of all, you gotta stop
Well,
the
we
flow.
gotta fix the
Yeah.
problem first.
fix the
and then-
problem and then fill it.
We're not gonna reduce the flow, that's the problem.
But the remediation on the site, on the gas station site, has to be able to handle that amount of water.
Isn't there's supposed to be no net increase in water coming off of the
That's correct.
site?
Yes.
And that's not what we
Well,
have.
what do you want me to do?
Well, first of all,
For a gas station.
I'd like to take a look at it before we,
DPW,
yeah, it definitely is, it's a design problem. from
Oh,
what
I
can
agree.
see.
but the DPW pipe and that flow that caused that stream to be eaten out was there before that garage and that little, those two dinky little things. Those are for the gas station
Yep.
area. But the pipe coming off of the highway was there long before that. And it got moved, that's the one that went straight, and they moved it out of the way. That's where, I mean, that erosion didn't happen because of since that pipe was, the gas station was put in.
Right, it was already occurring,
Right.
but they extended
So
its
you're saying
pipe.
that you think that the problem is the DPW pipe, not the gas station?
DOT, that's Mass
Or
DOT.
Right. Right, it's a town pipe, and it's just ran under the road, ran away from the road, and just went down there and just dumped out, and I don't know if they had any riprap or anything like they have now. That looks fresh. I don't know what they
Yeah,
did.
that's,
Yeah.
but
I don't
that-
think they
all
had
that-
anything probably at that
Yeah.
time.
And the filling station with that,
Okay, but wait a minute. If that's the case, I mean, what I'm seeing trees, live trees that are undermined.
Yeah.
Those trees wouldn't still be alive if that was an old damage that was done by that pipe before the gas station went in.
I'm just saying that that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, because as I said, I saw that pipe that you're talking about before.
Oh, okay.
And it was not, the erosion and, it was nothing like that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's it, that's what I didn't know,
Yeah.
that you'd seen that.
So I'm stunned, but I don't know where it's coming from. It must be, most logically, you're right, but I'm telling you before,
That's the information that I
Well-
didn't have,
Yeah.
and so it has to be.
I
do you
think
remember
there,
that, Dave? Do you remember being down there?
What I remember was, we got pushback from the people from Blueberry Lane, because they were scared to death that with the amount of paving that was gonna be done,
there was some,
Yeah.
that there was gonna be a lot of runoff coming right down onto Blueberry
Right.
Lane.
Well, what you're saying, that you saw it, and it was just, that stream hadn't been eaten out like that, then,
I don't believe the stream was eaten out like that.
Yeah.
I don't recall it being
I don't
eaten out
recall.
like that.
yeah, that would make an impression.
That,
on me.
it's like, holy
Yeah.
shit when you see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, we were pretty amazed.
Yeah.
And like I say, those roots were so undercut.
You gotta get moving here.
okay, so what are we doing about this? Should I issue them a letter saying we have concerns with your stormwater?
Absolutely.
I feel like it's, and I'm just issuing that right now to the property owner.
Yeah.
Not to Mass DOT.
To the property owner. It's
I mean, I
causing,
think they were
it's
supposed-
causing erosion on the property
They were
behind.
supposed to improve the Mass DOT pipe situation.
Yeah.
Right, but
That-
you're also gonna have to have a copy of that go to DEP. Cause it's their order of conditions.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
you
doesn't
are right,
exist.
yeah.
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 And I'll reference that it was a superseding order.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's important.
Yeah, and I think we should get someone from DEP to look at that, and we should explain all of this.
Yeah, because then they
But-
can throw their hands up in the air and say, well,
What's
we
his
don't do
name?
that.
I think the guy's still there that signed off on it, so.
Oh, yeah? Good. Let's bring him out.
Yeah.
Who signed off on it?
Willie Loman.
No, if I remember correctly, it was, Mary Ann DePietro was the woman who came out to look at it.
Really?
If I remember
Denise Child
correctly.
signed off on the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, but that's because she was director at that time.
There was a guy, Dusham, something like that. He signed off on something too, I thought.
Okay, we
What?
don't need his name now.
All right, I will do that. Should I now leave Mass DOT out of it for the time being?
Who was the short basketball player
Who we
that
got?
shot from anywhere on the court?
Pistol Pete.
Walmart Plaza.
Yep.
We got two things here. We have Walmart's its own kind of separate thing, and then we have, give you an update on that retaining wall, that failed retaining wall. The engineer for that did call me. I just wrote it in an email and I forget. It was about a month ago. They did call me. After our last meeting, they did give me an update, and then the engineer did call, left me a message. I did return the call, kind of left a lengthy message what we're looking for, update, status NOI, draft plans, everything. Nothing. I did follow up with an email to them. I'm still waiting to hear something from them. So, been a lot of effort of trying to
Do
follow
we need
up
to
with
start
them.
finding?
Well, we don't have a direct violation, which doesn't mean we can't not fine. I mean, it's really close to the edge of the resource area, and it could likely result in a violation. And I think when Art Allen did find it, going back through the file, I think the reason he did go up there and look, because there was some turbidity in the water, so he had some question and followed it up there. I mean, they have that silt fence up. I mean, I think we can make that threat. And when I did make a threat of enforcement before, they said that, well, if that's the case, then we'll have to put everything on hold and we'll have to refer you to our lawyers, et cetera, that they wouldn't be able to move forward with any plans. So,
Tell them we'll have,
Yeah, that's a familiar song.
tell them we'll have to close the store.
close the plaza.
Yeah, cease and desist all sales.
I'll just keep on it.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him dates, our upcoming meetings, you get your notice of intent in, we can approve your project, so you can move forward this spring as you plan, so from what you told me, I'll just keep up with it. Going to Walmart, we did reach out to Walmart, we asked them for a copy of their, inspection and maintenance records for their operation and maintenance plan. They did send some over for me. I did also ask them about the salting issue. The contractor did call, so they're not using any salt. They have sand out there, which I did see. But I also asked them to send me their contract for that. The contract I got is a generic contract they use for all their Walmarts. So it does say that they can use salt, but they also called out, I mean, other things that are approvable by us. Even I went back, Glenn had some correspondence, you guys gave them some alternatives they could use to be mixed with sand. But, so this is just a generic contract that allows for salt. So what I was gonna say is that, you know, we've reviewed it. We asked that this contract be made specific for this location, as it is not.
Right.
One other thing I noted when I was going through the orders of conditions is that there's supposed to be signage out there saying the whole thing's a no salt zone on the
That's
whole
correct.
property. I don't think there is any sign.
There isn't any signage.
Yeah,
I
that's,
thought I saw one sign somewhere.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll have to look.
I'll have to
but,
look again.
Yeah.
'cause
Just
I-
as verification for the
could've-
Walmart piece of the puzzle, I remember specifically, maybe 3 years after Walmart opened, Dave Kabinski came in himself to one of our meetings and asked us to give him permission for this one storm event
Yeah.
that they had just had to spread salt because they weren't able to control the serious amount of ice and it was a safety condition.
Yeah.
And we said, yes, please do.
Yeah.
Protect the people, but then stop using salt.
Right.
And one of the reasons he had that contract while somebody else had all the rest of them is because Walmart specifically had an order of conditions that said no salt.
Yeah, and they were aware of it. And you guys did give permission in 2015, as well. So, right, in need for really severe conditions, obviously, it's
Yeah.
been allowed. As far as the operation and maintenance plan, I did go through and they provided me with a whole spreadsheet of all their dates they've been out there. But I kind of, things that I noted is that they didn't have, I mean, they just had biannual maintenance and inspection. We asked in the orders of conditions that, all the catch basins be inspected and cleaned out, on a quarterly basis. They had it on like a biannually basis. So, I mean, I think what my letter to them would be is, go back through the orders of conditions I gave you and make sure your contract is specific for this site. We also asked in the orders of conditions about inspections, checking the basins. There's nothing in there about checking basins. It's more about checking their lines off their buildings and things like that. It's nothing really about the storm water too much.
However, wouldn't it be a Good Samaritan effort to ask them to verify whether the need was quarterly, or if in fact they were able to control the problem by doing it semi-annually? Because normally the contractor is only gonna come back when it's necessary. You don't want them to be cleaning it out if there's like a half an inch of material in the bottom of the sediment
Well, I
pool.
think that's probably what it says, it's at least checking it quarterly and cleaning as
Oh,
needed. I
okay.
think, I mean, I can go back through it, but I kinda wanted to put it on them to go back through the orders and conditions and send us a plan for next year or this year, I guess, cause it's only beginning of the year, that reflects the specific conditions.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
You happy with that?
I'm happy.
Well, thank goodness for that, sir.
The yawn was not planned.
Just wanna, that one's done. George Vinton Road, since we're in the Walmart Plaza already.
BWC.
Yeah, where's my stuff? I had Ray Hanna there contact me last year asking us to sign off on his permit because the work's done. And I was like, no, we can't do that. It requires a couple years, you know, monitoring plants, checking things or whatever.
Right.
Also, too, they haven't gone out, I think I can't think of the company's name now.
Louis?
No, they're engineer consultants there. That's all right. It doesn't matter. They need to go out and they actually need to survey to make sure that they've done everything correctly for the culverts. So I said to Ray, I said, I mean, if you need something in writing saying that you guys did the work, you know, maybe we can provide something for you, just kind of confirming that you did go out and do the work. However, you know, we still need some additional information and monitoring, et cetera, before we can close out your permit. So he sent me a letter he wants us to sign, which I'm not gonna recommend that we
thinking of Art
sign. Huh?
Art Allen?
No, this is Ray Hanna.
Ray Hanna, okay.
You know, just saying that, you know, a summary of the work, culvert replacement work was done, wetland buffer zone tree clearing was done, buffer zone restoration plantings were done, screen plantings were done. All work appears to be in accordance with the orders and conditions, blah, blah, blah. AMEC surveyed, that AMEC is the company, surveyed the as-built conditions of the culverts early this month, he says, and they're preparing as-built drawings for us. So I reached out to Art, because Art's the one who did all the monitoring. He did provide us a letter saying, you know, based off his knowledge, it appears that they did everything the way they were supposed to. He saw all the plantings and everything. So I reached out to Art and said, I don't really feel comfortable recommending that they sign this, especially because we don't have anything about the culverts, that they were installed correctly from engineers and other people that do that stuff. But maybe we could provide a letter just saying, yes, you did do that. Our, you know, the environmental monitor does agree that the work was completed. However, we need to review plans for the culvert. But it appears that you've met some of the conditions of your permit. However, ongoing conditions, we will not close this permit out. Blah, blah,
I don't
blah.
think we should close it out until we have a
Oh,
growing
absolutely not.
season such that we can see that
Right,
it's
and
actually
I've
working.
said that, yeah. They understand that, but I don't know if he needs something to show his bosses that, look, I've made these people happy.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't know that we should sign this. I think we can write a letter and
Yep, I agree.
send it.
Yeah, I think a letter is
And that's,
better.
you know,
Yeah,
that's
we
what I
can
said to
sign
Art
that.
and
With
he
what
agreed.
You could even say, well, yeah, we're satisfied at this point. We'll get out there this spring and take a look at the site.
Right.
Something along
Yeah,
that.
Okay.
and I'm really concerned about, you know, the extra cutting that they did and,
Oh,
you know,
God.
what, yeah, I wanna see
See how
this.
that looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have been successful, Stephen. You are now becoming one of the members of the Skeptic Club.
No, I've been there a while.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to give you an update on that development at the end of New Boston Road that we saw when we went to Lane 8.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh,
was-
Panera Bread.
No, the
Oh,
other
the
side
other
of New
end.
Boston Road, yeah. So, I did, been working with these people there. It's, where they're working is outside of our jurisdiction. We did ask if they had a SWIP. I have not been told to date that they have one. The answer has not been questioned because they do not have one. But Ed raised a good point and asked me to ask them if they have an earth removal permit through the town because they're extracting a lot of gravel out of there. So I did ask them, they did come in the next day after my email, spoke to Nelson, the building inspector, who's also the zoning enforcement, and asked about that. So I went online, I printed the bylaw, went over and gave it to him, said, you know, I don't know how you fit in this, but I mean, there are exemptions here. You can go through these and figure it out. So he was gonna look at it and get back to Nelson. So I did ask Nelson. He did provide me with some information that they gave him. It's 2 particular lots based off the information that they gave Nelson, including that they have they have building permits on both of those. They're saying they don't think they're subject to that. So after reviewing section 3.13, all the excavation of the 2 lots will meet the mandatory conditions outlined in our bylaws. They feel that the only way to build those lots was to blend the grades and remove the hill and the material in between the 2 lots. And that's why they don't think the earth removal permit's necessary. Nelson did issue a letter on February 19th.
They had one of those sifter grinders there.
I know, he issued,
Big,
Yeah, I know.
he issued a letter saying that,
The hill.
Yeah, they removed the hill.
it's his opinion that his property does not meet the requirements of needing to obtain an earth removal permit. So,
that's the applicant's opinion?
no, that's the zoning enforcement's opinion. Nelson issued that letter in response to what he was provided with, so.
Okay.
I asked them about putting those bales down. The ground was frozen. They will monitor it and they'll get those bales down as soon as they can. Nothing about the SWIP. Based off my conversation with Nelson, he did say that he informed them that, you know, if they needed something of that nature, they need to take care of that too. So, I mean, we don't have any permits for that, so it's not
No.
really necessarily our
right.
jurisdiction. I'm gonna, you know,
Great.
refer it to them, but.
What's next?
Well, that crosses everything off of our agenda.
How about our minutes for
Oh,
February
yeah,
5th?
that's true. I always forget those.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Discussion?
There was only one minor change.
All in favor?
I changed it today. Thank you, everybody.
You did accomplish that, right?
Good job.
What was that?
You did accomplish
I
that.
did, yes. Thank you.
Just for CPA, just to give you an update, we met last night, and we recommended 52,000 and some change for trails for the 3 projects that they have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Nice.
Yeah.
the 3 trail, one is a parking lot, which he's gonna come to you because I don't know, Tommy's telling me that we approved enough space for 50 lots at the Riverland.
That's correct.
I talked to him
Yeah.
today.
And I
That's
said, you
correct.
gotta make sure that it's on the easement.
It is.
It is, the CR, it's on the
Yeah.
CR?
Well,
Okay.
Not for 50, it's the spacing.
well, there's 2 different sections that talk about it. They were given an envelope on each side. I
Right,
think it was
that's
about
what I'm
an
saying, there's an
acre.
envelope on each side.
But then there was also other specific language further on about how many parking spots on each side. So, yeah, so we talked, Tom came down today and we looked at it. We pulled up the CR and talked about it a little bit. So they need to look into that a little bit more. They might exceed that amount, but.
Would the parking space bylaw apply to a parking lot on
Yes, it does.
Oh, I don't know.
Very
No,
specific.
It's a CR, it's a CR we're
It's a-
talking about.
Yeah,
No, he's asking about spacing.
I'm talking about the size of a parking
yeah.
space. We have a bylaw.
Yeah, well, this isn't gonna be tarred even, so it's just gonna be a flat area.
yeah, and there's no lines, but they use 10 feet by 20 feet deep is what Tom was saying. I know, I asked that question too.
That's
so
the
I was like,
rough guide that's used, but remember that even though we talk about 50 parking spaces, 4 of the car spaces are not gonna be consumed by cars. It's gonna be for 2 horse trailers.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, from my point of view, it's only the space we're allowed to use.
Right.
That's all. We
Right.
can use all we,
That,
you
you're
know.
right.
And by the way, Mark Farrell is doing some pro bono work on that for us. He's already done some.
Well, I think he's got a contract too, so.
He has a contract also, but what he did was a lot of the initial surveying up front.
Yeah.
I was gonna have that, because they did give me a draft of that plan. I was gonna have that on this agenda as well as, I mean, the minor kind of parking lot stuff they wanna do at Plimpton, but we decided to put it to the next one, but they might need to relook at the Riverlands one. So we're not gonna have to give approval because it's a CR. It's in buffer zone and it's in outer and a little bit in inner riverfront, area. So we'll have to look at it as a notice of intent filing. So I'm gonna give them a few comments just based off what I saw, and I told them I'd send them the CR so they can look at it a little bit more. So we may see that on our next agenda, we may not. Just so you know, that I haven't forgot about, we have some site visits that we're postponing till after snow, early spring. One is 3 Lad Road. We'll be doing a site visit for 30 Lad Road. I'm not really sure if it's 30, but it's a lot of sites, 'cause it's gonna be a forest cutting plan. I don't know where that's going, so keep that in mind. We might have to do that as a separate site visit.
We did have a, Advantage Tree, tractor trailer empty go up Lad Road towards 49 today, coming off from the 508 site.
Really?
Just as a point of information, because I like to keep Stephen on his toes.
What, so we don't have any
it?
dates for those things that,
Becky, do?
A couple other things, just quickly.
Yeah?
We're gonna do our annual Earth Day cleanup. We're gonna do it, I think Earth Day's on the 22nd, that's Easter weekend, so we'll do it the following weekend. We have a Boy Scout group, my sons, who's gonna be going out to the Burgess Trail and doing
The
some work.
29th, is that the
Oh.
20?
Yeah, the 28th, 29th, I think that weekend.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll put some stuff together if you can help promote it. Last year, we were able to get the Burgess School does the Connect Ed emails. We got it sent out that way. Want to try to make it easier for people to sign up for that. So I'm going to use like Google Docs. We'll work on doing like an online thing where they can check off that they've, you know, they're not going to sue us if they fall cleaning trash or whatever. You know, they've read our do's and don'ts. Try to make it easy for people, but really try to promote that this year.
That same Saturday is gonna be the Earth Day celebration at, Riverlands, and it's gonna be a massive cleanup, and
Nice.
gonna be going further on from what was done the previous time. Because the previous time, we were able to pick up a significant number of tires.
Yeah. Met with new DPW director, went over a bunch of stuff. I was supposed to meet with them yesterday. I'm gonna be meeting with them probably this week or early next week to talk about MS4 permitting. Standards have changed from my understanding. There's a lot of things that they're gonna need to look at. So looking at some of these point source discharges, and maybe it could help them with some improvements that'll help them meet their standards and end up with some good outcomes, for us, for our resource area. So wasn't on my goal for this year, but now it's shouldn't be, I think, so.
so this is gonna be Earth Day number 49. Right?
What?
I don't know. Is that how many years been doing Earth Day?
Started in 1970.
Huh. Yeah.
I helped
makes sense.
organize it in St. Louis. That
Nice.
made me old.
No, that's not what made you old.
No, you're right. The frustration of it. Wow, 49, that's amazing.
One thing I'd like you guys to think about is maybe, you know, maybe there's a need now for a Slack liaison. I mean, I don't know how long ago it's been since we've had one, but if we have a lot of these lake things coming up, actually, when we were out at that 268 Big Alum site, she did mention that the Lake Association is getting together to talk about, you know, road improvements and stuff. So I see a lot of things coming up with lakes. Maybe it would be useful, especially with, you know, Cedar Lake issues we have too. We've got all these algae blooms. It seems like there's gonna be a lot coming up maybe there. I think it might be useful, to have one again. Just thoughts out there if anyone's interested.
Sounds good.
If anyone's interested, going down the line, boys.
Now, what was the date again?
Anything else?
Not really.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have some discussion.
Oh.
Is the discussion about the adjournment, or is it discussion about anything?
Oh, Steve wanted a clarification on the April date.
No.
Leave the lights
We
go.
thought that the April date for our meeting was going to be the second Tuesday because you were going to be on vacation, Becky.
What? I wish I was going on vacation April. I'm not going on vacation.
Okay.
Okay.
I was in February.
Oh, it was
I
February.
really have no discussion.
Okay.
I have a question for Becky afterwards. I'm voting yes, let's
All in
adjourn.
favor? Meeting is over.
Not that I'm tired.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize it
Becky.
started